fire, strumming along with our favorite lyre. Adventure call, the quest awaits, your destiny's in the hands of the fates. But never fear, we're all friends here, we'll have your back when danger's near. Come with us through the pages as we unravel a tale for the ages into the Percy-Verse.
Hello and welcome to the Percy-Verse Podcast. I'm Alisa.
And I'm Anna. Ride the elevator up to the 600th floor of the Empire State Building because today we're reading Chapter 21, I Settle My Tab.
We've arrived.
We've arrived.
We made it.
Oh my gosh. It's like everything is almost satisfyingly concluded in this chapter. It's so close.
Yes.
And it's annoying that we have to wait one more chapter for the full conclusion. But I also kind of can't believe we're here on the second to last chapter already.
I know. Yeah.
Crazy.
In New York, concrete jungle.
Na, 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 na. Yeah, absolutely. Almost. We do start in LA.
We do. Yes.
We do.
Yes.
We got to wrap some things up. And Percy has an absolutely hilarious first line given who he is.
Yes.
Where he says, it's funny how humans can wrap their mind around things and fit them into their version of reality. And I was like, it's funny how Percy spent a lot of this book wrapping his mind around things to fit them.
And I felt like my note for that was that to me it felt like that was the theme of the book, and it was not just humans but like Chiron and the gods and just like, and we even see in this chapter like Zeus and Poseidon do the same thing where they like make the like Kronos' rumblings work in their reality of he's not a threat and this isn't something that we have to worry about, even though I have my thoughts when we get to that piece, but it this felt like it was such a theme for this book, but then also in general, like I think these first 5 books as a whole, because I think so much of them is confronting like what the actual reality is versus like the version that everyone is living in, and like, you know, what people have made to think is like okay and not okay because it fits for like themselves, like whether it be the gods or the demigods or anyone.
But I like that as like, as we're reading through the books, I like that as the theme for this book, and I wonder if maybe there will be something like that for each book that will kind of land on, you know, that,
like a
that has that theme. And I agree. It's also kind of funny because Chiron is one of the people that did that himself. And then the next sentence is, Chiron had told me that long ago. As usual, I didn't appreciate his wisdom until much later, but I thought that was kind of funny. And then I thought maybe that could just be like an extra credit question on the test, because it obviously wasn't on the test, but it kind of feels like it's still a Chironism to put, you know, somewhere. Even if he doesn't, you know, apply it to himself.
I was about to say, and one that he needs a little refresher course on.
Well, I think that's part of this like hierarchy that is really important to delve into as we go through the books, of like putting mortals below immortals, and then everyone else in between is sort of like kind of put in their little steps according to how their proximity, I guess, to immortality. And so there's this idea that like humans have these flaws that like don't apply to us, you know, when in reality they're sort of universal flaws if you really look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we even see that when Zeus gets his lightning bolt back in this chapter and says something about having to like clean off the like human taint or whatever it is, like the wording that he uses. And it's just like what? What? Like, because 2 humans touched your lightning bolt, it's, you know, now like tainted and no longer this like pure
that almost
thing.
Gives humans a lot of power, like so that they somehow have power to influence such a powerful object is like, I don't know, it almost means something about humans that's like they
do
both.
Have a big
it's
effect.
Like that,
but then also like
you can't have it both ways.
Yeah, but it's like both, because it's also viewing them as so lesser than that it's like, ew,
absolutely.
it's disgusting.
It's like vermin.
And it must
Yes.
be cleansed. Yes.
Yes.
You little rodent.
I know that's
like,
how he means it, you know, but it's like kind of like, okay, but like if they were so puny, then how could they even affect it at all?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah. So I don't know. Those first 3 sentences hold a lot in them, and maybe
They
hold
do.
the theme of the book, as you pointed out. I like that a lot.
Yep. And so then we kind of get this rundown of basically like how, you know, Percy doesn't say it's the mist, because he explains with humans will wrap their mind around, you know, anything to make it fit. But we kind of know like the mist is doing its job, and then humans, you know,
are like making
full
meaning.
mortals, yes, are like being like, okay, yes, this now works for our perception of everything. And so we kind of get this rundown that now everything's been reframed as Percy was actually like kidnapped along with Annabeth and Grover by Ares, who they, you know, just kind of call a kidnapper. They don't identify him any like more specifically in terms of trying to figure out his identity. And that all the kids had actually been abducted back in New York, and you know, so the Greyhound bus was actually Percy trying to escape, and everyone's like, oh, yeah, I remember. Yeah, the guy was actually there. I can't believe I forgot.
Yeah.
Which I think is such like it makes me think about how like expert or eyewitness testimony in court is so unreliable, because like our memories are so faulty. And, you know, people like swearing that Ares had actually been on the bus and be like, I can't believe I forgot that he was there. And it's like, he wasn't there.
He wasn't there.
Not on that bus.
Though I did wonder if, because they specifically describe him as a leather-clad man they saw on the bus. So I did wonder if, because sometimes there's like a grain of truth in the reality or in the that lives in reality, that is the seed through which the non-reality sprouts. And I was wondering if maybe they had this inkling of the Furies who were leather clad in some way, and were sort of like transposing it onto them, maybe.
Yeah, that was my feeling too, that they kind of went like, instead of these old women, it was actually like this man, and they just kind of swapped them. Like,
so I don't know how you could have missed this guy. So
yeah. And then they also, Ares is now also taking the fall for the explosion on the St. Louis Arch, and everyone's like, no kid could have possibly done that. And then now the waitress in Denver is being reframed as just this like concerned waitress who, you know, wanted to take a picture to notify the police to help him out. And
which this is all so annoying, because it's like they spent all this time saying Percy could have done it. Like they spent all this time being like, oh,
Barbara Walters
he's like
got involved.
Yes, he's like a delinquent kid blowing up buses and national monuments, and it's like, it's just frustrating to read it like, oh yeah, a kid couldn't have done the thing that we definitely claimed and said that he did, you know? It's just, it doesn't sit right.
Yeah, no, not at all. It's like when it's like a mass version of when you like call someone out on like a lie or whatever, and they're like, no, and it's like, no, you said that.
I never said
like,
that.
you need to be like, dang, I was wrong. Like, my bad for that. Like I did say those things. Like, I did say that Percy was a delinquent kid. I did believe. I did report. And that's my bad. Got that one wrong.
And it should be, especially with the story they're saying now, they should be especially mea culpa-ing, because now they're saying that Percy is a kidnapping victim.
Yes.
And for them, like, imagine if that were true. Like, take a minute and imagine if it were true that that was the real story. The harm that the news did.
Yes.
By saying that it's Percy's fault and, like, blaming this kid and having people, like, looking out for him in that way of, like, trying to see if he was doing something bad, and not as, like, a potential, like, kidnapping victim or a kid in trouble or, like, something like that. And that Percy sees that, it's going to make him stay away. Like, if he did need help, it would make him scared of reporters or the public or people who could have helped him. So it's like, extra bad if that's the real story, what they were doing before now, in terms of Percy getting any help, if that were the case.
Absolutely. I mean, that waitress in Denver is such, I think, a like great example of the difference that makes. Because if the whole time this story had been framed as Percy and Annabeth and Grover were kidnapped, that waitress would not have been like, okay, sneak the photo of the like kid who's on a rampage so we can like get it out in the newspaper. It would have been like, hey, kid, like I like. Here's my God, like, do you need help? Like, something
all
like
the authorities,
that.
Something different could have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Obviously. Yeah. The truth is neither. Like, the truth is Greek gods exist, which no one could have predicted. I understand that. But it's more so like they're, if it's true, then it's really extra bad.
Yeah.
So.
And then the explanation that's come up with for the battle on the beach is that Percy had stolen a gun from his captor and battled him shotgun to rifle on the beach, which I just have to say is wild. Like, that to me feels more unbelievable than like, a kid was able to like mess with a bus and like, I'm like, that feels more like,
this is the most believable answer they could have done.
I was like, all of a sudden we're now in like Baz Luhrmann's Romeo plus Juliet. Like,
absolutely.
Like, what do you mean?
That is the
It was
vibe.
A shotgun to rifle and everyone went,
12-year-old.
That tracks.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Absolutely. I also really love the little Percy note of, finally, brave Percy Jackson. I was beginning to like this kid. Which is also kind of like a fun moment because he's just been having to deal with so many negative news stories that like it is kind of nice that he sort of comes out the hero in this one.
Yeah. And it's good for just his future existence that like his name is cleared and he can continue living. Though I am realizing it is kind of funny that like I want to pay attention to see if this news story that was, tracked him on 10 days, like, do we ever get references to that? And at any point when he is out and about on his other quests, like, are people ever like, hey, you're that kid who got kidnapped?
Remember anything like that, but we can keep our eyes out. But yeah, you do kind of remember kids like that sometimes, I feel like.
I mean, because it's like, it was a national news story, that was like a big thing for
Barbara Walters got involved.
Barbara Walters got involved.
Oh, man. Yeah. But I do think it's like, it's interesting that so they go into police custody, but the reporters are the ones who are like linking all these dots together. Yeah. So Percy, like they've been trying this whole time to like figure out lies they can tell people, and like they didn't even have to, which is honestly good because overall I'm not giving them a great score on the lies they come up with, like overall as a whole.
Right.
I think the best one is like, I am a stunt double for a lot of child actors that Percy does. That's the best one. But overall I think we could do better. So it's good that they didn't really have to. And they just nod and act tearful and exhausted, which they are. And oh my God, what Percy says here, like, I don't even know.
Snaps
it's
for Percy.
Great, but like,
Incredible.
I don't even know how, I don't know that I could get these words out of my mouth. Like, I don't know how he does this with a straight face. Do you know what I mean? Because he's all I want is to see my loving stepfather again. Every time I saw him on TV calling me a delinquent punk, I knew somehow we would be okay. Like, I know he goes on to mess with Gabe, but like, just the words loving and stepfather together, I'm not even sure how he does that.
I mean, look, he's picked up acting skills along the way, and like we've seen, the way he just played Ares in that battle. He's still going to be riding a bit of that wave of I just fooled a god.
Yes, totally.
He's developed his like bluffing ability, and I think he's just
made me sick,
become
man.
an actor.
Yeah. He is. Percy Jackson is an actor. I totally agree with that. I was just like, oh. But he says, and I know he'll want to reward each and every person in this beautiful city of Los Angeles with a free major appliance from his store. Here's the phone number.
Let's go, Percy.
That's really funny. Especially because he's saying that Gabe, whose store is in New York, will send free appliances all the way across the country to anyone in Los Angeles.
Well, and what this made me think of was I've heard people be like, look, if you want to be really petty and like get revenge on someone who super mistreated you, and you have their phone number, like sign their phone number up like for, you know, like a bunch of stuff, like either like, you know, like, like, or like political campaign, you know, stuff to be like, yes, please notify.
Oh my God, especially like politicians they wouldn't like.
Yes. and so I feel like he did this purely to just be like, I want Gabe's phone to like literally not stop ringing, to just I want to be the thorn in his side that never goes away, because like, you know, obviously Gabe does not survive for much longer, but if he had, he was going to be getting calls for bare minimum of months of people trying to cash in on this, and you know, if not for longer.
Well, and Percy doesn't know his mom is back, like, or will be back shortly. Like, he doesn't know that. He's thinking of Gabe sitting alone, like, like just by himself, getting all these phone calls. And it is, I think, overall quite a mild retribution for what Gabe has done in life.
Yes.
And I do think Percy is riding that high from, like, once you've, you know, defeated the war god in battle, I think you feel like you can take on your gross, you abusive
made
stepfather.
It through the underworld, and then you just like you not only survived a battle with the war god, but you successfully injured.
You're kind of like, say what again? Like you're in that kind of vibe.
Yeah, absolutely,
totally. So we love it. We love it for Percy. I'm just really impressed with the acting here.
Yeah, it is. It is quite impressive. And everyone is so moved by Percy and this whole story that they're passing around this hat, and they end up raising enough money for 3 tickets on the next plane to New York. Of it.
I think that's incredible. Probably one of the best effects of it.
Yes, because these kids had no money.
No.
And so then they take off and they fly to New York. And I was just thinking that, like, imagine your first ever time on a plane being one where you know that it is literal life and death for you. And you're like, I hope Zeus doesn't zap me out of the sky.
And you're carrying one of the most powerful weapons on Earth. It's like your first time on a plane is carrying an atomic bomb during the Cold War.
Right. And I want to know what magic happened that TSA scanners did not pick up
absolutely
on this lightning bolt.
Like,
this metal, like, I want to know, like, how it appeared, you know, because, like,
and this is post 9/11. As we know, because of the references. And
enough post 9/11 that I'm pretty sure TSA was very well established.
I think people were taking off their shoes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. It has to be, because when they first get the backpack, right, you can't see the lightning bolt. Like, they look inside for all the stuff. So maybe, you know, because it has that ability, it must not pick up on the scanners when it's in its sheath like that.
I don't know. I just want to know, like, what does it look like? What, you know, like, what does it look like? Something else?
Totally.
Does it look just like a fake fun little thing? Like, I'm just curious.
Like, yeah. Not just that it wouldn't set off detectors, but like, it's not like it shows up under the X-ray thing, and it's just like lightning bolt in a tube.
Yes.
Like, what is that?
Yes.
Yeah. That would be. I would like to see the scanner, like, screenshot of what it looked like. I agree.
Yes. Yeah. But they fully survive the flight. Percy's understandably terrified the whole time, and he says every spot of turbulence was scarier than a Greek monster, and he didn't unclench his hands from the armrests until they touched down. safely at LaGuardia. Which, I mean, hey, dude, I get it. Like, I remember, like, being in middle school on a plane, and I hadn't been on a plane, and I think years and years by that point.
Yeah.
It was terrifying. Oh, I was every bit of turbulence. I was like, the plane's going to fall out of the sky. I was like, this is it.
Well, and I've been in planes and, like, lightning storms that really do feel scary to be in.
Yeah.
So, it can be scary even when you're not carrying one of the most intense weapons belonging to the head god dude who might blast you out of the sky.
The head god dude.
It's just like unofficial name.
Right. Yeah. But they arrive in LaGuardia, and local press was waiting for them outside security, which I just want to say, you absolute rats, they're children. Leave children alone. They're 12 years old. Stop it.
Agreed.
What are you doing?
Agreed.
Being at an airport to meet 12-year-olds who you believe should be kidnapping victims? What is wrong with you?
Yes,
what is wrong
absolutely.
with you? Leave the children alone. Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop
I think
it.
the press are definitely like minor bad guys in this whole story.
Yes.
They play the role of like minor bad guys for sure.
Yes. But thankfully Annabeth, quick on her feet.
It's smart. It was Annabeth's idea.
Yep, it was Annabeth's idea. And she throws on her Yankees cap and shouts, "They're over there by the frozen yogurt," and kind of so makes everyone, like all the reporters who've gathered, go over there. And they do say they meet at baggage claim, which makes sense as a spot to meet up because that's like before you exit an airport. But also I was like, did they like check the lightning bolt again? I just was like, did they maybe like
another option? Maybe
maybe
I can't imagine you'd let it out of your sight, but maybe I don't know, but I don't think they had that much. Maybe it was just a place to meet, like you said. I feel like we might need shirts. I feel like we might need shirts that say it was Annabeth's idea.
Yes. Yeah.
I think we do.
Yeah, we definitely need merch of some kind.
Yeah.
It was Annabeth's idea.
It was Annabeth's idea.
Yeah. But then here is where they split up. And this time, thankfully, it's not life-threatening to anyone that they do split up. And this time, splitting the party is not, like the worst idea in the world. And Percy tells Annabeth and Grover to go back to Half-Blood Hill and tell Chiron everything. And he says that it was hard to let them go after everything that we'd been through, but I knew I had to do this last part of the quest myself. If things went wrong, if the gods didn't believe me, I wanted Annabeth and Grover to survive to tell Chiron the truth. Yeah. And I felt like in that moment, it felt like Percy has now met multiple gods, and all of them, like he's met Dionysus, Ares, and Hades, and all of them threatened his life. And all of them said that he would die. And I feel like he's kind of like, I'm meeting the big head honcho.
The head god.
He might actually follow through. Yeah. This might, and
absolutely.
And so while it is like a very drastic thought, I think it's one that makes sense to me, that's like grounded in the experiences that he's had with the other gods that he's met.
I think it's super reasonable. I think, if anything, I was just thinking Annabeth and Grover might be like, but like, I wanted to see Olympus. Like... Annabeth has already seen it. But that was my only thought. It was like,
Grover's like,
Percy,
but I want to get a t-shirt.
Right. I want to see the nymphs up there. Yeah. So that was my only thought. But I do think that it is fully reasonable for him to think that this is yet another life-threatening situation he's putting himself in. And also, it's his quest. He received the prophecy. And I think that because he has spent this whole book and his whole life being misunderstood and misread, that it also makes sense that he wants the truth to be out there. Yes. Like, he wants Annabeth and Grover to tell Chiron what happened. And if something happens to him, particularly because then on top of that, like, World War III is on the line, he wants people who actually were there and can tell Chiron. So it makes a lot of sense to me.
Yes, very much so. And so Percy hops in a taxi, and my brain went hopped in a cab at, instead of LA, it used to be LaGuardia, I guess. And headed into Manhattan. And he arrives at the lobby of the Empire State Building. He hasn't slept in at least 24 hours. He's looking a bit of a mess. He just fought a god. He went through the underworld. Yes. He hasn't slept.
Yes.
He probably, he really could use a shower. And
a shower. Sleep. Yeah, we're kind of back to that description of, Percy needs a shower, which we were at, halfway through the book, too.
Yep. But this can't wait, and so he goes up to the guard at the front desk and just straight up says 600th floor, which
I know.
I wondered if maybe his experience at DOA and at this point enough experience in the magical world made him think or did Annabeth tell him you just have to go up to the guard, And
yeah, we might have missed a little bit of dialogue between them at some point.
Yeah, of kind of because if no one told me, my assumption would not be regular guard dude sitting at the front desk of the Empire State Building. Same. Also knows about Greek gods, and that Mount Olympus is just kind of hanging up there. It would not be my
totally
assumption.
No, same. I don't know. I guess I probably would have asked Annabeth, so maybe he did.
Yeah.
I probably would have gone to try to see if the elevator says 600 or try to scope it out a little bit. I might not have walked up to the guard who looks quite mortal.
Mm-hmm.
But he's right. Whether he got the info from Annabeth or whether he figures it out, or he's still in his brazen kind of walk up and do stuff he wants kind of space. Because the guard says, "No such floor, kiddo," and Percy just says the name of the head god dude himself.
Yes.
And says, "I need an audience with Zeus." And the guard gives him a vacant smile and says, "Sorry." And Percy says, "You heard me." And so I think he is a little bit on his power.
Yeah.
So then Percy's about to decide this guy was a regular mortal. But he says, "No appointment, no audience, kiddo. Lord Zeus doesn't see anyone unannounced." And kiddo is such a, weirdly sweet way to, I think kid sounds really, kid sounds like it could be demeaning or it could be serious. But kiddo is, I've never heard a mean kiddo. Do you know what I mean?
I know.
I think it's kind of funny.
This one feels it felt demeaning. This felt
No, it did. I just thought it was kind of funny that
No, I know.
the card says kiddo.
I know. Also, we meet him and he's reading a huge book with a picture of a wizard on the front.
Yes.
What book do we think the guard is reading?
I was wondering about that because I don't think Lord of the Rings books usually feature Gandalf.
No, I was kind of in my headcanon, I kind of want it to be that he's reading some edition of The Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin. But I don't know,
that has a wizard on the front, right?
I mean, there have been so many variations of the cover, and I know that there's actually she had a lot of disputes with it because a lot of illustrators made the main character white, even though she specifically describes him as having brown skin and stuff, and so so I don't know if it would be that, but in my brain I'm I kind of want it to be the Wizard of Earthsea.
That would be cool.
But I'm what books have a huge wizard on the front?
Right, because I think the obvious wizard book of the time would be a Harry Potter reference, but those are mostly kids, and I don't feel they look that wizardy.
No, no.
So, yeah, I guess everybody leave your guesses, your theories in the chat for what book has a picture of a wizard on the front and also is a huge book. That's the other element.
Yeah.
It's a very, very large book. So, and this is 2005.
Right.
So in 2005, what huge book has a picture of a wizard on the front? So tell us your guesses in the comment section for sure.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, that was my fun little question of
yes,
what's he reading?
I was wondering that too. I'm very curious. But after that slightly demeaning response, Percy's just oh, I think he'll make an exception. And slips off the backpack, unzips the top, and the guard is then looking at the lightning bolt. His face goes pale, and he's that isn't. And Percy says, yes, it is. You want me to take it out? And he does this faux bluffing thing that he's all into now. And he's like, no. And he grabs the key card, inserts it into the security slot, or tells him to insert it in the security slot, make sure no one else is in the elevator with him. And when Percy slips a key into the slot, the card disappears and a new button appears on the console, a red one that said 600. And I can imagine for a kid like Percy Jackson, getting to press the red button without being told not to was very satisfying.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, wait, 2 quick things that I just realized. So, when after Percy's having the exchange with the guy, and he says, I was about to decide this guy was just a regular mortal and I'd better run for it. I'm like, so to our earlier question of did he ask Annabeth or not, to me that sounds like he didn't ask Annabeth.
You're totally right.
Because if he had, Annabeth would be like, it is the guy. He's going to be like, no. And you know.
So
like,
Percy's just being brazen because that's his vibe right now.
Yeah.
Love that.
And then the other thing, when I read that, like, this guy just, which we never get a name for him, I'm realizing.
No.
He's just
guard.
Security. He's just Guy. He's like Guy, the movie Free Guy. His name is just Guy.
His name's just Guy.
He's just the NPC who's,
always
at the desk.
I would love it if that had more of an arc, and like in the 5th book we kind of got some he came out with the sword and did something. I don't think we get that, right? That would be kind of fun.
I don't remember if we do, if there is a moment in the 5th book where no, because by the time Percy goes up, the desk is empty. And Percy, he doesn't even need the security card. He just goes up. The desk is gone.
But that would be funny,
which
right?
Makes
if the desk was empty because the guard came out with... I don't know. I just love the idea that, like, Guy from book 1 comes out with sword and, like... I don't know. Kills one monster and then maybe dies.
Yes. If he's more of kind of like... Oh my gosh. What is Idris Elba's character in Thor? The protector who controls the gate?
Yeah, with the gate, with the rainbow gate.
Oh my god, I can't believe I'm looking at his name.
Heimdall.
Yes, Heimdall.
Yes.
Yeah. If he was kind of like a Heimdall and
True.
Protected. But the other thing that felt really funny to me was that they just hand over the key card.
I know.
I'm like, you could just like run away with the, like, I know he inserts it and I'm sure it magically returns to him, but I'm like,
assuming,
couldn't Percy just now like make a run for it and just kind of like have the key card? Like, why are you just like, you don't like get up and put it in the elevator? I feel like you'd want to be like, okay, I've put it in the elevator now. And
you would think the guard would like walk over and put it in.
Right.
Yeah.
Or there'd be some way for the guard to, from that station, be like, okay, the 600th button.
Like have his own button.
Floor button.
I know.
Like
it's kind of an interesting system. Yeah. It does feel quite analog, which is a little bit like, 20 years ago, retro vibes.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, totally. It's just fun. It just also feels silly to be like, here you go, 12-year-old.
I know. He like just calls him kiddo, and then he's like, here's the key to the castle. And you sure? But I guess he's also just a little frightened by the bolt, which is fair. Yes,
very fair. So Percy presses the red button, which I also thought red was such a funny color, like not gold or, like...
I know. That's why I think it's more, like, it's sort of funny, because I think it's more meant to be the thing you're not supposed to press usually.
Yeah, right.
I don't think it's, like, Olympus themed. It's, like... It's more like... like, only if you're really sure should you press this button.
Yeah. And music starts playing, so this is where we really start to get our, like, underworld, like, counter, the two sides of the same coin here.
On my head.
Yep. And Percy arrives, and the way that Percy like struggles to take it in always reminds me, and I know you've talked about it before on the podcast, but like how the Grand Canyon is this thing, like your brain, like it's so vast and so massive that like your brain can't even really comprehend what you're looking at. Like it feels like Percy has that moment seeing Mount Olympus,
which is sort of the second time he's had that moment in the book. Like it really is, I think it gives you that feeling of not quite David Goliath, but that is somewhat of this story, like with him and Ares, and it gives you this feeling of him being small in a bigger, magical, expansive world.
Yeah.
But if I could backtrack just real quick, I do think it's interesting that the song is Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, given that Zeus is the god of like thunder and lightning.
Yes.
That like, I don't know, he might like that song.
It's
like
whatever song's playing, it has to be somehow like sky, thunder, rain. Maybe I wonder if he's a big fan of Fleetwood Mac's Thunder Only Happens,
I think
when
probably
it's raining. Like I wonder if maybe
I think probably
he loves that
I'm
song.
trying to remember. I have in my head that one of the other times we were at the elevator is the Pina Colada song, but I could be wrong. In which case, it's I'm Getting Caught in the Rain.
Right.
So I just think maybe the playlist, the Muzak playlist, has to be kind of rain or storm or
Oh, I
Zeus
mean, it makes
themed,
sense.
so.
I wonder if he likes Thunderstruck. He's
Probably.
Like, Thunderstruck. He's like, yeah, Thunderstruck.
Yeah, that's what he listens to, like, through his, like, AirPods when he's just, like, doing his run in the morning or something.
Oh, my God. It's his pump-up playlist.
Yeah, it's his pump-up song. Yeah.
That would
anyway,
be
I just
really
had
fun.
to say.
That would be really fun to come up with, like, the gods,
playlist.
like, playlist, like
Oh
their
my gosh,
pump-up
that would be
playlists,
so
or like
fun
their
for each
favorite, like
god.
very themed to each.
I want to do that immediately.
I feel like we need to do that.
Okay,
and
we
that's
need
a fun
to make
thing, 'cause we can make
playlists.
those, and then we can share them.
That's what I'm
like
thinking.
with people. We can make those playlists public, and you can like get in the mood of whatever god you want to be.
I think we must do this immediately.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm this close to just saying stop the podcast and do it.
Stop the podcast.
Stop the podcast.
Stop
but
the
no,
presses.
we'll keep going. We'll keep going, but we will circle back to that maybe quicker than all our other ideas because I like that a lot. But yes, Percy is in front of a view he can't understand, which is absolutely fair because terrifyingly enough, especially you don't like heights, so you would really not like this.
No, I'm scared of heights.
That he's standing on a narrow stone walkway in the middle of the air. Below is Manhattan from the height of an airplane, so like he can see it.
No.
You're dying over there. In front of him, marble white steps wind up the spine of a cloud into the sky. And what he's seeing is a mountain.
The top, the decapitated peak.
Yep, just
of
the
a
peak.
mountain. Yes.
Yep.
The summit covered in snow, which sans the summit, the description of it reminded me a lot of the Hercules, the Disney movie, and like what Mount Olympus looks like, because it is just literally like in the clouds, like up.
Yes. There was actually a few moments in this chapter that gave me some Hercules vibes.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. But yeah, there's just the like, so the literal like top,
the top of Mount Olympus.
The top of Mount Olympus, which I kind of like. I think that's so interesting, and it makes sense because it's basically like Olympus itself is like built into this summit, like into the peak of
which
it.
Sounds
so it makes,
really interesting to look at.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Very, very interesting. But so it makes sense that the peak then has to like come, like visually as well.
Sure.
But it's kind of one of those funny things where like, I guess that's in terms of all the other ways the gods have modernized, like they have not modernized like their home. Like their home, like that it's still the
still
literal
ancient
top
Greek
of the
vibes.
mountain.
It's still the top of a mountain. Yeah.
Like their thrones
it's just
are
the
modernized.
Place.
They dress. They have TVs, but like the literal structure, they're like, but we are still on the top of a mountain.
We are still Greek gods and goddesses over here. Yeah. Clinging to the mountainside are dozens of multi-level palaces, a city of mansions, all with white columned porticos, gilded terraces, and bronze braziers glowing with 1,000 fires. Really fun words to say in that sentence, honestly.
Yes.
There's like roads winding crazily up to the peak, and the largest palace is gleaming against the snow, Precariously perched gardens are blooming with olive trees and rose bushes. There's an open-air market with colorful tents, a stone amphitheater, hippodrome, coliseum. And he says, which I like this description, it was an ancient Greek city, except it wasn't in ruins. It was new, clean, and colorful, the way Athens must have looked 2,500 years ago, which I think is like so cool. I would love to see that. And it's so important because that's something that like comes up around even like Greek statues and things like that, that like we perceive and think of them as just being like white marble, but in reality, like we know they were colorful and like
and they were painted.
That's something that they were painted, and so it's really cool to imagine being able to see that. Like that's a fun part of them not having changed it.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Oh my God. Yeah. I would. Oh, I'm like thinking about like if I could just like magic tree house my way.
I'm
just,
like you would have
just,
to
pop
get
it and be
past
like
the scary bridge. I think that would be your challenge.
Oh no, I was saying magic treehouse my way back to ancient Greece to just kind of be like, hey, like let me just like
of course,
take a gander,
sure, yes,
see what it looks like, you know, kind of see it live.
That would be
myself.
amazing.
Yeah. I also like the description of Mount Olympus kind of made me think of the description of Elysium and the Isles of Blessed and like you know how that is.
Yeah, that still has like the ancient Greek vibes.
Mm-hmm.
Though I guess at least in Elysium they can sort of choose their architectural style.
Yes, but just the winding roads, everything's so beautiful. It just was kind of
the like etherealness of it. Totally.
Yeah. Was reminding me of that. And then the other thing that I found interesting was like it's a snow-capped peak, and it says the palace gleamed against the snow. Then we've got like the olive trees and the rose bushes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this made me stop for the first time and go, does Mount Olympus always have snow on it then? Like, because we're in summer.
Right.
So like,
well, so like 14ers often retain some amount of snow all year round, like here.
Yes. But I'm
Mount
just
Rainier
like,
always has some amount of snow.
Like where is, I just like never actually pictured Mount, like I've read this so many times, but my brain is now trying to like combine the image of everything else that feels very like summery and flowy with like snow.
Yeah,
you
totally.
know? And I'm like where's the snow? Can you step on the snow? Can you make snowballs in the snow? Can you have a snowball fight? Like what's the deal with snow?
I understand what you're saying. What's the deal with snow? I think that this is a very
snow? Like
Texas-based question because I really relate to your question. Like the only reason I think I have a different perspective is now having lived in the Pacific Northwest, being like it now makes sense to me that there could be snow and rose bushes on the same mountain. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
The only thing that's strange is
like
it's
olive
just
trees
the peak.
Yeah.
So my thought is more so like it magic, you know?
No, like I know that it's magic, but I'm like, is that literal crunchy crunch? You can walk in it snow.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, and like
could you make some snow
angels in it? And that just feels really funny, I think, because like I just do not associate snow with Greece, even though there are like mountains. Obvious, you know, like there's Mount Olympus is. Anyways, I just like.
Well, and it's possible
I'm having
that
a funny moment.
I'm not even sure actually, like how much snow there is on mountains in Greece. Like that's a great question. I would want to look up because I don't know how tall they are.
Right.
So in real life. Is that a thing in Greece / was that a thing in ancient Greece? Like that's a question I would have because I'm not sure the answer to that. It's possible that its location in New York means that it behaves more like a East Coast, Northeast kind of mountain, you know, where being up that high means it would always have some snow at the peak. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Worth looking up.
Anyways, just trying to like combine.
No, I got
olive trees and snow.
I think there is definitely some magic at play.
Yeah. Again, this is what happens reading more carefully than I've ever read in my entire life, taking it in so slowly. Because I am one of those speed readers. So something like that, my brain would read snow, But with all the rest of the descriptions, I'm focusing more on like the open air market, and it's colorful and there's olive trees.
You wouldn't be thinking of like the implications of actual snow.
It's not forcing, reading that word snow doesn't force my brain to go, hold up a minute, you need to add snow to that picture. But having to read it so slowly now, I'm like, wait, I have to put snow.
Yeah, you're like, I don't understand
Olympus
that.
This whole time.
It's
What's
summer.
happening? Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. And looking at all this, Percy also can't believe it's there, so maybe y'all are just also having a similar thought process over here.
Yeah.
And he's just like, the tip of a mountain hanging over New York City, like a 1 billion-ton asteroid. How could something like that be anchored above the Empire State Building in plain sight of millions of people and not get noticed? And that's an interesting thing, too, because, like, it's one thing if, and I think in the Hercules one movie, it's like, clouds are kind of under it, right?
Yes.
Like, I think.
Yeah.
This is not that. Like, Percy's looking straight down into New York City.
That's
so
terrifying. That's really terrifying.
Interesting, too. But also, like he's saying, in theory, that means you should be able to, like, look up and see it. So the mist, I think, is just doing a good job.
Working overtime.
Working overtime here. Yep.
At the car wash. So I'm sorry, I guess my brain's just on songs today.
You were jukeboxing today.
Yep, that's what I've got. And then we get this whole description from Percy as he's walking through Olympus. And so we find out that they're like giggling wood nymphs who throw some olives at him from their garden, and there are hawkers in the market offering to sell ambrosia on a stick and a new shield and a genuine glitter weave replica of the golden fleece Easter egg.
I know,
for the
I put a
next
star.
book. Easter
I was
egg
like,
for the
pay
next
attention.
book.
Also, I was like, I have a shield.
Yeah.
Made me excited about my shield. I did not buy it on Mount Olympus, unfortunately. No. I wish I did.
Yeah.
But as seen on Hephaestus
yes.
TV, which we have been, exploring the TV guide of this whole book.
Yes. And then the 9 muses are tuning their instruments for a concert in the park while a small crowd is gathering. I want to go to that
concert so bad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And satyrs and naiads and a bunch of good-looking teenagers who might have been minor gods or goddesses. I feel like at this point, Percy's like, weirdly good-looking teenager. You're immortal.
You must be.
Yeah.
Oh, that one looks a little like Ares. Oh, no.
Right. I do feel like it is kind of funny, like, how many immortal beings, like, how none of them want to look ancient.
Right.
Like, they all want to look young, even if they'll be like, fine, I'll look like I'm in, like, my 30s or whatever. They still always want to look young, and the youth is, like, important to all of them. None of them are like, I want to look how old I truly am.
Right.
It's interesting.
Right. Yeah, it's not like Zeus has like a gray, like a white beard, or like we're not, giving that gravitas. It's like, they definitely, well, I think it's an interesting thing, right? Because they also take on mortal clothing and things like that. So it's an interesting thing where like they influence mortals through architecture and belief systems and things like that. But mortals influence them. I think that goes back to like this idea that like, they can't have it both ways of saying mortals are puny little things that don't matter, but also like, I like your chair. Like I might use your chair because you did come up with a good chair. You know what I mean? It's not like they come up with their own chair designs that are like the most wild things Percy could have ever imagined. Like their clothes are like Tommy Bahama. Like it's they're into the mortal stuff. So I think that's really interesting to think about, like the power dynamics of that too, and how much mortals actually do have an influence over the gods, whether they want to admit it or not.
Yeah, well, no, it is really interesting because there is this fascinating power dynamic of like the gods have more literal magical power, but mortals have power in the sense that like the gods will cease to exist if mortals forget
they keep them
their
alive.
Existence. Like, so there's it creates this really fascinating like dynamic and relationship where like there is like mortals do hold power in that sense.
I think you're gonna like this. I think this goes back to your idea about the gods and all these power dynamics and like CEOs and companies and things like that. And also our underwater musical, because I think that that's true in like our reality too, that for example workers hold a lot of power, but like a CEO wouldn't want to think that, like would act like that's not the case and like treat them poorly, but in reality they can't exist without the workers, right? And
the
like,
company
that's
doesn't
true
exist
for the gods too.
Without the workers, and the CEO doesn't make all the money without all the people
which
that they're underpaying.
Which means the CEO's position doesn't exist.
Yeah. Ooh, okay, we're really like building up.
I think that furthers your
You're excited
about that one.
Yes. And Percy notes that like no one seems worried about an impending civil war. Everyone seems to be in a festive mood, and several of them just kind of turn and watch Percy pass, and they whisper to themselves, which is interesting. I'm kind of like, it made me curious, like all of the major gods definitely seem to have like followed Percy on his quest, but like was there just like a Hephaestus TV channel that everyone could tune into and kind of like get all the updates? And is that why people aren't worried, because they kind of know like, oh, it's fine, the lightning bolt is coming back?
Vibes I get though, because Zeus isn't even like sure about the conclusion of all these events when Percy talks to him. I get more of the vibe of like a rich gated community during the apocalypse. Totally. You know what I mean? More of like like that same idea of like we can't be touched. Like they would be shocked if something affected them.
Like it's making me think of Bossing Say, like there is no war in Bossing Say.
Right.
Like,
right.
Like that. Like they're the inner ring. And
there's
so they're just happening.
Always living their best lives and like don't feel like reality can touch them. It's sort of the vibes I get, especially because like they're just having a good time, you know, is how they're being described. Yes, yeah.
And then this is where Percy notes that he's kind of realizing that Olympus is a reverse copy of the palace in the underworld. In the underworld, everything had been black and bronze, but here everything is white and silver. And Percy has this moment where he realizes that Hades must have built his palace to resemble this one. And Percy kind of feels bad because he's kind of putting the dots together of like, if Hades is only welcome here like in the winter, and otherwise he's like has to be underground, like it makes sense that he'd build his own Olympus. And he says to be banished from this place seemed really unfair. It would make anybody bitter. And I was like, Percy's like, not only I feel like in this instance is Percy understanding Hades, but again, he's really, I feel like, on his way to understanding the bigger picture that will be then his request of the gods in the end, which is just that, like, the treatment, the exclusion, who's in, who's out, who's recognized, who's valued and deemed as important, and who isn't. And I feel like this is another kind of piece to that puzzle. Yeah,
Percy's basically like, y'all need to stop acting like high schoolers. Like, that's basically his conclusion at the end. Like, there can't be an in crowd and an out crowd and popular and like, this is not okay. But I also think it's a good example of like his empathy. Like, I think because of Sally, we've talked about this, like he has such a strong capacity for empathy, and I think that serves him really well throughout the books. And I think it kind of tempers when he gets sort of this bravado or like some of the sort of power trip moments he's had at the end of this book. I think things like his empathy, and we're gonna have a few moments here at the end where I think his like truest self kind of comes through in the decisions that he makes and how he navigates when you know he's going through these situations. And this is one of them where he's taking time to have empathy, even though Hades didn't treat him particularly well, and he doesn't know that he's returned his mom yet.
Absolutely. And so then he passes through the central courtyard to the throne room, which he says that room isn't even really the right word to describe it. The place made Grand Central Station look like a broom closet, which is wild.
That's hard to take in. Even that, like the scale of that feels really hard to imagine.
Like how massive the
so
throne
big.
room is.
Yeah.
And it has massive columns that rise to a domed ceiling, and that ceiling is gilded with moving constellations, which just sounds beautiful. But made me curious, like, is the ceiling like always nighttime, or is it like reflective of the time of day that it is?
Well,
or is it reflected of like the time of day it is in Greece? Like,
that's a good question. I'm thinking of the train station in New York that has like the greenish ceiling with kind of like constellations and sort of Greek and stars, like Greek mythology and stuff on it. So it's also possible that it's not necessarily like meant to replicate a sky. Yeah, but it could have its own color. Like it could still be white marble. It could still be, it could be green, like something like that. But it's just that it's gilded with that on there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's kind of how I read it.
Yeah. And so we get this description that the throne room has 12 thrones built for beings the size of Hades, and they're arranged in an inverted U, just like the cabins at Camp Half-Blood, and an enormous fire crackled in the central hearth pit. And when he enters, there are only 2 gods seated in their thrones. Yes. And Percy did not need to be told who they were. He just goes toward them, his legs trembling, understandably. And we get our first description of Zeus. We
do.
He's the first one that Percy describes. Both Zeus and Poseidon are in their giant human form, is what he calls it, which is funny.
Which is funny, he's like, as, like, the size of Hades, and it's because that's the only god he's, like, seen at 10 foot or 20 foot.
Ares and Dionysus have been at whatever the regular,
like more human. Yeah. So it's kind of funny because that's just his frame of reference right now. Like that's all he can like relate it to.
Yeah. And Percy says that he could barely look at them without feeling a tingle as if his body were starting to burn, which I think is so interesting because it's like just being in their presence is like already activating that like whatever happens then if you were to look at them when they go to their true form. Yeah. But here's the description of Zeus. It says, Zeus, the lord of the gods, wore a dark blue pinstripe suit. He sat on a simple throne of solid platinum. He had a well-trimmed beard, marbled gray and black like a storm cloud. His face was proud and handsome and grim, his eyes rainy gray. And as Percy got near to him, the air crackled and smelled of ozone.
I like that we have our Zeus, Lord of the Gods.
Yes.
Talia, daughter of Zeus.
Right.
Perseus, son of Poseidon. Seaweed. Old seaweed. So we got that. Classic. I think it's funny he's wearing a pinstripe suit. Like he's sort of like the official administrator of the place too. Like,
which it's so funny because now like it just the only person I like see in media regularly wearing pinstripe suits is Sam Reich.
Sam Reich. From I know. I thought that too. When I said a pinstripe suit, I thought of Sam Reich too. I know.
Because it's not the same energy.
The vibe is so different.
But yeah, no,
I wonder who Sam's godly parent would be. I kind of want to think about that because I don't have like an immediate answer that comes to mind. Yeah. That's interesting. Yes, I think that's interesting. I also want to pose a prompt for all of us to think about, which is, what would your true form look like? Because we never get to see what a god's true form is, and only gods get to have them in these books. But like, because we're never. Like, well, I guess, okay, I have not read every single book by Rick Riordan, but so far, like, we don't necessarily get them described to us. But it made me think, like, if I had a true form, if you had a true form, like, what would they look like? So that's, like, a fun thing to think about sometime.
That is fun, yeah. And if you know what yours would be, add it below.
Add it below. Comment. Let us know. Tell us.
Share.
I love the idea of that. Draw it out. Yeah. You know, paint it. Yeah, I think that would be interesting. But I like that the air is crackling and smelling of ozone around him, like, and that I like especially that his beard looks like a storm cloud. I think that's really fun. Like,
yes.
That seems like a fun element.
I do love how Rick Riordan, like, the visual depictions and descriptions of the gods, like,
yeah,
I feel like they represent, like, the essence of what the god's domain
totally
is. And
yes.
I've always
really
appreciated that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not in like a weird, like cartoony way. It just feels like they can't help it because it's so intrinsically linked with who they are.
Yes. Yeah. It's like their identity is like being that incarnate, basically.
Yeah. Good word.
Thank you.
Good word.
Oh well, thanks.
Yes. And so the god sitting next to him was his brother, without a doubt, but he was dressed very differently. He reminded me of a beachcomber from Key West, and I was like, when has Percy seen a beachcomber in Key West? I was wondering that. He wore leather sandals, khaki Bermuda shorts, and a Tommy Bahama shirt with coconuts and parrots all over it. His skin was deeply tanned, his hands scarred like an old-time fisherman's. His hair was black like mine. His face had that same brooding look that had always gotten me branded a rebel, but his eyes, sea green like mine, were surrounded by sun crinkles that told me he smiled a lot too, which I love. I've always loved eye crinkles, like it like gives you that warm feeling to see someone who has like smiling eye crinkles. I'm hoping I get smiley eye crinkles when I'm older. I'm working on that. But I think it's Poseidon has this really interesting, like, Zeus is Zeus and Hades is Hades, and they kind of have, they're like one note sambas a little bit in how they move through the world. But Poseidon has like so many different facets because like the sea has so many different facets that I think even this description like gives us some of that. Like there can be an intensity and a harshness, and there can also be like a playfulness and a humor and like a softness and a warmth, and it's such a really cool, I don't know, just a really cool description that gives us some of that. And just to wrap that up here, his throne was a deep-sea fisherman's chair. It was the simple swiveling kind, with a black leather seat and a built-in holster for a fishing pole. Instead of a pole, the holster held a bronze trident flickering with green light around the tips. And I just wrote, cool. That's so cool. I like it.
That's sick, dude.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, but it is. It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think they're... like the description of Poseidon having the like malleability and the changeability, that's a word, that the sea has, and like the different aspects there. It's interesting because we see him like when he's on Olympus, he's pretty much always in this like Bermuda short like attire, and I feel like he's always kind of putting on that like the chill like fisherman, you're hanging out at the beach kind of like vibe of the sea.
It's definitely giving middle child, I think. like this idea of like you're not the oldest one, you're not the youngest one. And so you're kind of like, hey, I'm just like vibing.
Back to our like family. I mean,
family dynamic tree.
Age order or like birth order isn't part of like a family systems analysis. Like, but I do feel like that like this is a piece of it. 'Cause it's like because Hades and there's an interesting thing with like Hades being the oldest, but he's the most excluded, and Zeus is the youngest, but he's the one that holds the most like power in this family system and the most authority.
Is like sometimes that happens because the youngest child is like they figured out how to parent by then and they give them more resources or like whatever, like that can actually happen in a family dynamic. And then the oldest child was given all this responsibility and didn't get the best parenting, and didn't get swallowed, or did get swallowed by the dad, because Zeus is the only one who didn't. So he's got a different energy about him for that.
But then turning into like Zeus being the one in charge, it feels like a more kind of it's fascinating. It's
they have like different. We talked about that last time. It's like they have, or 2 times ago. It's like they have this sort of polar flipping between them, where like Zeus is the youngest, but he has the most power in the Olympian system. Hades is the oldest, but he is the black sheep and the truth teller of the family. But either way, I think that leaves Poseidon as the middle child. Who's vibing.
It does. Right. Who's just
who's
kind of
got
like,
that
well,
rebellious, brooding vibe, but the crinkle eyes.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of funny. Yeah. And it really is a different vibe than we see him in his own domain.
Yes.
And I think part of, like, to your point, he has a very different energy and gravitas when he is in his own domain than when he is at Olympus, where he's not in charge.
Yeah, it does feel like there's interesting thing where, like, on Olympus, it almost feels like he kind of takes more of a back seat and doesn't have to, like, prove his, like... Yeah. That's not his dominion, so he doesn't have to, like, prove that he doesn't have the most authority, so he can't... be in that position. But when we see him in his own domain, he is in his most formal and kind of doing what Zeus does in that way of being like, no, this is my domain, I am in charge here, like everyone needs to like adhere to me and respect me, and you know, like, and Percy's very thrown off. He's like, I've never, like, what is this vibe you're putting out, Dad? This is weird, like I've never seen you like this before.
Where's the Tommy Bahama shirt?
Right. So I do think it's interesting that I think that the like of the many things that these brothers have in common is that when they're all in their dominions, they're playing big boss man. They're all playing, like, I'm in charge here. This is mine.
Yes. Yes, like... totally. This is my sandbox. These are my toys.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not that impressed overall with Kronos and Rhea as parents. If I had to, like, you know, not that impressed. Like, just based on how their kids turned out. I think I have some notes. But what I think is interesting is Percy's immediately picking up on a vibe where the gods weren't moving or speaking, but there was tension in the air as if they just finished an argument, which I think goes back to like Percy's intuition. Yeah. And Percy, and again, he's very like confident throughout all of the end here, and I really like that for him. Like, he's really grown a lot. Like, he's always made gut instinct decisions, but I feel like there's a difference here in like how he's moving through the world, where he's like 600th floor, and you know, he goes right up.
Yeah, there's also, I feel like there's, because, you know, we do get that, like, his legs are shaking, but he has what feels like this kind of, a bit of the self-assuredness. Like, he's now been through this rodeo enough times from the quest. This is these are the 4th and 5th gods that he's meeting. Like, there's... I almost feel like a sense of like, okay, I know how this goes. I know what I need to do. And also I have enough like self-confidence to communicate what I need to communicate. Knowledge
and truth is on my side. And it's like, he has an appropriate level of nervousness for the context he's in. Like, he's not overly confident, but I think there's just an assuredness, with which he's making these decisions, which I think is really cool. It's like part of his growth through this book, the way he's acting in a more intentional way. And so he goes to the fisherman's throne and kneels and says, Father, and his heart is racing, and he can feel the energy emanating from the two gods, and he knows he could be blasted into dust if he says the wrong thing. And Zeus, petty man, which we will see multiple times through this chapter, is like, should you not address the master of this house, boy?
Boo,
and I'm like, Zeus.
Tomato.
You make me tired, Zeus. Grow up. Percy just waits. And Poseidon says, peace, brother. And this is a sweet moment where his voice stirs up Percy's oldest memories, the warm glow that he had remembered as a baby, the sensation of this god's hand on his forehead. And Poseidon says, the boy defers to his father. This is only right. And I think, it's a tricky thing. Who do you walk up to?
Yeah.
In this moment.
It's also like the only reason why it's tricky is because they all have like the most fragile egos.
Yes.
You know?
They're all the most emotionally immature people that you could find anywhere.
Yeah. Like, that's the only reason why this is a tricky situation
Absolutely.
to navigate, when it's like, it shouldn't be.
Yeah, and it's like, Percy's never met his dad. Like, this is a really big deal, and that doesn't even really get to be at the center of this experience. It's like, let's try to not get, blown to smithereens and try to end, like, not have World War III start, Yeah. Imagine those are the stakes where you meet your dad for the first time, who you've never met in your life. Like,
right. Well,
that's wild.
Because then Zeus goes on to be like, you still claim him then? Like, so petty. And being like, you claim this child whom you cited against their sacred oath. And then Poseidon framing it as, I have admitted my wrongdoing. Now I would hear him speak. It's like, this whole time, it's like so clear. Like, Poseidon does at the very end, I think, realize he needs, like, at the end of this whole exchange, when it's him and Percy alone, he does throw him the bone of, like, you are my son, like...
Yeah. I'm claiming you, and I have some pride around that,
But, like, all of these interactions are so, like, it comes back to that, like, they're now treating Percy in that way of, like, you puny little mortal who doesn't matter. Like, we can talk about you around you even though you're standing right in front of us.
That you shouldn't have been born is like a thing that like is throughout this book that that's a terrible thing to hear. Also, after Zeus said, this child whom you sired against our sacred oath, I wrote, hypocrite much. Because it's not even like, it's like, that already happened. Like, the Talia stuff happened years ago. Happened. Like, are we pretending that didn't happen? Like, you're, of all people, getting indignant. Like, Hades is one thing because he didn't break the oath. But Zeus, of all people, like, he just doesn't like that Poseidon stood up to him around Percy, talking to Poseidon first.
Yeah. Well, and he's just...
He's a petty man.
He's a child. He's an absolute child. And at hearing Poseidon
I keep waiting for thunder. Like,
and at hearing Poseidon say wrongdoing, of course, Percy's immediately like emotionally thrown by that, and internally is asking, was that all I was? A wrongdoing? The result of a god's mistake? And Zeus is then just kind of grumbling and basically being like, I've spared him. I should have blasted him out of the sky. And again, they're not acknowledging him. And Poseidon is like, and rest assuring your own master bolt. Like, let's hear him out. And Zeus is finally like, basically like, oh, fine, I'll listen to what he has to say.
He just wants to grumble. Like, he just wants to complain for the sake of complaining. That's his whole deal right now.
Throw his weight around and be like, I'm the most powerful. Because even when he says, I shall listen, he ends by saying, then I shall make up my mind whether or not to cast this boy down from Olympus. And it's just like, okay. At this point, I'm over God's threatening Percy's life. And at this point, I'm like, none of you mean it. I don't believe a single one of you. No, you're all just gonna say this, and you're doing that as
it's
the kind
all
of like
Ares vibes.
Yes, like, let me remind you, I hold this magical
I'm more
power.
Powerful than you.
Yes, but like, I'm over the
also,
threats
like,
from the gods.
On that note, because we're gonna return, unfortunately, though fortunately for the last time, to Gabe at the end of this chapter. If a human parent or human uncle or human person was consistently making death threats against a kid, we would call that abuse. But if a god does it, it's Tuesday. And I'm not okay with that. Like, that is a perspective that was really important to hold on to here when we're thinking about these family dynamics. Now, granted, I think in our family dynamics discussion, we will have a lot of conversations about intergenerational trauma. Yes. I.e., how many people have been cut up into a million pieces and thrown in Tartarus over time is
eaten by their parents.
Too many people. Yeah. Things, obviously. Yes. But I think this is because of the God dynamic, it throws it out of perspective. Yes.
Percy is the one to break the intergenerational trauma.
The cycle. I know.
Percy breaks the cycle.
Thinking. Yes.
Wow. Okay,
this cycle breaker.
We are fully fledging out this video.
I know.
I'm so excited for us to make it because Percy's
a cycle breaker, especially by the end of the books. Yeah. Totally.
Oh my gosh. And I'm thinking once we reach Heroes of Olympus, we if we can, it'd be fascinating to do this also with the Roman gods. I know we don't like...
Sure.
We don't get as intimate with them because they are so much more like reserved and held back. But if we could, it would be fascinating to kind of
just see the differences and stuff,
and like compare and contrast.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
This will be exciting.
Yes,
Percy is a cycle breaker.
He is a cycle breaker. And our cycle breaker is about to actually have a chance to speak.
Yes, he is.
But first, Poseidon tells Percy to look at him.
Uses his full first name,
yes,
Perseus, which
Perseus.
sounds very serious.
Look at me.
I was like, oh.
Yeah. Yes. And what's interesting is Percy looks at Poseidon and he can't really like tell anything from his face. There was no clear sign of love or approval, nothing to encourage me. It was like looking at the ocean. Some days you could tell what mood it was in. Most days, though, it was unreadable, mysterious. And Percy kind of gets the feeling that Poseidon didn't really know what to think of him. Like, he just didn't know whether Poseidon was happy to have him as a son or not. Like, Percy's just very, like, he's searching for something in Poseidon in this moment, and it's hard to read him. But on the flip side of this, Percy kind of finds that in a strange way, he's glad that Poseidon feels so distant, because if Poseidon had tried to apologize or said I loved you, even smiled at Percy, it would have felt fake to him, like a human dad making some lame excuse for not being around. And Percy's also then kind of like, and I'm not really sure about him either. So Percy's, I feel like, riding a roller coaster of emotions that makes sense, because he's now finally, like, he's technically known now for like 2 weeks who his father is, but he's actually now finally like seeing him and meeting him, and that would be a lot. And like, I think it makes sense that he starts by searching to get some sense of like, do you love me? Do you not love me? Are you happy to see me? You're not happy to see me? And then being like, I'm glad you're not pretending that you love me, because that would feel fake. And I don't know how I feel about you actually either. So, you know, like...
It all makes so much sense, I think. And it's interesting because I was realizing like the first words that Percy hears Poseidon speak to him are Perseus, look at me. Yeah. You know, it's like, that's interesting too, because I think even that sentence is a little bit you could interpret it so many ways. Like it's a command or like an order, but it's like it's also like you don't have to bow your head anymore, so that could be positive. Like even those words are kind of like, what do they mean though? Like it's hard to kind of dissect them and figure anything out. And so Poseidon tells Percy to address Lord Zeus boy, which calling him boy, I'm like, okay, I know. What are we doing? That's no, it's like in God of War, the video game, he always says boy, like in the really low boy. So kind of reminding me of that.
And Poseidon tells Percy, tell Zeus your story. And so Percy recounts everything to Zeus, and takes out the metal cylinder.
Can I just say? It says, so I told Zeus everything just as it had happened. Meaning, like, that sounds like word for word, right?
Right. So we're kind of like the idea, but like 4 hours later.
4 hours later. But also, like, imagine all of the like Grover moments and like just all the silly things that happen that like Percy's like recounting.
So we played hacky sack with an apple as we were waiting for the bus, and then Grover kind of got hungry, and so he ate it the last time, but then it was kind of fine because the bus,
like, imagine Zeus sitting through that.
Zeus is like, God damn it, shut up.
Annabeth was building like this really crazy architecture thing, and we didn't realize that everyone else was from other decades.
And he's like sharing all the fun facts that he learned from Annabeth about the arch, and being like, it was built in this, and then move on, we can walk to the bottom, and Annabeth was showing everything.
I just think, and also like, I don't know if Zeus would like that, Poseidon sent to this woman twice to like help Percy. I don't know. Part of me thinks that it might not mean word for word, but just the way it says
It feels like basically
everything just as it had happened.
Zeus has to like sit through the book. Like basically
Exactly.
Zeus gets starting from chapter
Zeus
1.
reads The Lightning Thief.
Yes. Audiobook version live in person.
Yeah. And then you rumbled again. Then you rumbled again. Then I heard you rumble again.
Then I found out about your daughter. That's crazy.
Right.
That's wild.
That's crazy, right? Do you want to see my corkboard? He's like,
I've got the necklace. I've got the bead. Oh my god.
So anyway, I just thought that word was funny.
Oh yes. No, it is very funny. And so Percy takes out the metal cylinder, lays it at Zeus's feet, and it begins to spark in the sky god's presence.
Yep.
And there's a long silence, and then Zeus opens his palm and the lightning bolt flies back into it, and as he closes his fist around it, it like turns into its full form.
Fun.
So it's this 20-foot javelin of arcing, hissing energy that made the hairs on Percy's scalp rise.
Yeah.
And Zeus admits that he senses that Percy's telling the truth, but says for Ares to do such a thing, it's most unlike him. And Poseidon says he's proud and impulsive, it runs in the family. And it's funny, Percy goes, Lord, and they both go, yes.
It's kind of like when people try to like walk through the door at the same time and get stuck in it.
Yeah. And this is when Percy brings up the really important element of Ares didn't act alone. Yes. Someone else, something else came up with the idea, and this is when he describes his dreams, the feeling he'd had on the beach, the momentary breath of evil that had seemed to stop the world and made Ares back off from killing him. And Percy also explicitly says that Ares hinted that he'd been having dreams too.
Yes.
Says that the voice had told Percy to bring the bolt to the underworld, and that basically Percy's like, I think Ares was being used just as I was to start a war. And Zeus, I'm just kind of like, God, for an immortal being, you're not keeping with it.
Not so quick.
Because Zeus goes, you are accusing Hades after all.
Yeah.
And Percy clarifies, no, that he's been in the presence of Hades, and this feeling on the beach was different. It was the same thing that he felt when he got close to that pit, which was the entrance to Tartarus. Something powerful and evil is stirring down there, something even older than the gods. And then Poseidon and Zeus proceed to have a very quick, intense discussion in ancient Greek where Percy only catches one word, father. So this is finally where, like, you know, if you're as a reader paying attention, you remember that in like chapter 1 we got the story of Kronos and everything where you're like, father, this is like Kronos reveal part 1 before we then actually get them saying the name Kronos.
Yeah.
But then Zeus goes, he goes, we will speak of this no more. I must go personally to purify this thunderbolt in the waters of Lemnos to remove the human taint from its metal, blah, blah, blah. But for him, it's always so frustrating to me when, like, whether it's the gods in these books or someone in a position of power in a book, when you read these books, and they are approached by, like, the hero of the story with, like, something's happening.
This is happening.
The big bad is happening. And they're like, meh.
Yes, I decided reading this chapter this time through that Zeus's animal bird should not be the eagle, but it should be the ostrich because he likes to bury his head in the sand. Because it's so ridiculous that Percy is like clearly telling the truth about everything else. Mm-hmm. And it's like, they know. Like, they know. Yes. They just, Zeus especially, just doesn't want to confront it.
But also Poseidon doesn't either.
Totally,
and we'll get to that part as well. But it's just like, it always frustrates me to no end when it's like you have been given proof, like irrefutable proof, and
actual
you're just refusing to acknowledge it. It's just so frustrating. But so Zeus rises to leave. But as he looks at Percy, his expression does soften by a fraction of a degree, and he says, "You have done me a service, boy." Stop calling him boy. Don't do that. Few heroes could have accomplished as much. And I love that Percy's like, I had helped Sir Grover Underwood and Annabeth Chase, getting the full names in there.
He's like,
credit.
now that I know that I'm not gonna get blown up, I want to give them credit for their help.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then again, annoyingly, he goes, "To show you my things, I shall spare you your life," which I'm so over it.
Just all for show.
But then he says, and he goes on to say, "I do not trust you, Percy Jackson. I do not like what your arrival means for the future of Olympus, but for the sake of peace in the family, I shall let you live." Which is just like, are you kidding me?
I know.
Zeus?
I know.
What?
I go back to the hypocrisy of it all too, you know?
If I'll give him a bone of grace, I could see how maybe it would be really hard for Zeus to see Percy survive and be alive while Talia isn't.
Totally.
If I'm going to throw him a bone of grace, it still doesn't excuse, the way that he's talking and behaving and just...
And again, if a human parental family figure made this many death threats, we would call this abuse. So I think that's the perspective. I think you could take it in the godly context. That's that. Mm-hmm. You could see, I totally agree, that he has complicated feelings around Talia and Percy and how all that went down. But let's not forget, death threats are death threats.
That's still his uncle saying that to him. And he kind of leaves and reiterates, "Do not presume to fly again," and then also says, "Don't be here when I return." And another one, he has to throw in another final death threat of saying, "Otherwise you shall taste this bolt, and it shall be your last sensation."
Rolling my eyes.
And he finally
thunder
leaves.
Shakes the palace because frickin' Zeus can't
just
help
walk
it.
out of the building. I know. So he has finally left, and Poseidon sighs and basically is like, he's always had a flair for dramatic exits. I think he would have done well as the god of theater, which is he's got jokes, funny. I guess.
He's got jokes, guys. He's got jokes. I mean, Percy's got jokes. Poseidon's got jokes,
Yes. Yeah.
Because Sally doesn't really have jokes. So I think maybe it's coming a little bit from Poseidon.
Yeah.
Sally has jelly beans.
But what's interesting is that here we, I think it's really interesting that Percy asked Poseidon, "Sir, what was in that pit?" And Poseidon regards him and goes, "Have you not guessed?" And then Percy says, "Kronos, the king of the Titans." So it's interesting that Percy kind of wanted, he knows, but he wants that.
Yeah, he wants confirmation.
Yes. And at Percy saying the name Kronos, the room darkens, and the hearth fire doesn't seem quite as warm on Percy's back. So it's a powerful name.
It's really powerful.
Invoke.
And this might be a good moment to mention, because we've been kind of moving past them, which I think is sort of how it's meant to be read. But there are so many hearth references in this chapter in the Olympus section. It's when we first get there, there's the hearth, and there's the hearth in the room, and there's fires, and then this dims the fire. And I just can't help but think there's a bit of a reiterating of hearth here, because it does come back into play so much.
Yes.
At the end of this story, that we're meant to sort of start linking these things together and not forgetting that there's a Hestia and a hearth and these kinds of pieces. So anyway, just wanted to point that out, that really stood out to me, how many times it's referenced here. And then for Kronos to be making the fire less strong feels really meaningful to how the hearth functions in Greek mythology.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And then Poseidon kind of gives the recap of what happened in the first war, and that Zeus cut their father Kronos into 1,000 pieces, just as Kronos had done to his own father. So again, going back to that intergenerational trauma, repeating cycles.
That's what I'm saying. Though I will say, I've seen Uranos spelled just starting with the U, like Uranos before. So it was interesting because I usually listen to the audiobooks of different books to see it start with an OU. I hadn't remembered that that's how it's spelled in these books.
Yeah, that's how, because I've only ever read the books. I've never done the audiobooks. Like, that's, my brain associates that spelling.
So do you say Uranus or Auranos?
So I say, I think when I probably very first read the books, I think, when I was like 8, I probably, in my brain went, Auranos, I guess.
Auranos? Yeah,
but in my brain, I say Uranus now, and I did Google it. And it's also hard to tell on Google to know, like, are you telling me the correct pronunciation of this? But and so Poseidon says, like, basically how everything was scattered, that Kronos' remains are scattered in the darkest pit of Tartarus. The Titan army kind of fled, and their mountain fortress on Etna was destroyed.
Big star,
Easter egg.
big star.
Yep.
Big Easter egg. Yep.
And their monstrous allies driven to the farthest corners of the earth. And yet Titans cannot die any more than we gods can. Whatever is left of Kronos is still alive in some hideous way, still conscious in his eternal pain, still hungering for power. And Percy says he's healing. He's coming back. And Poseidon shakes his head and says, from time to time, over the eons, Kronos has stirred. He enters men's nightmares and breathes evil thoughts. He wakens restless monsters from the depths, but to suggest he could rise from the pit is another thing. And what makes me so angry is I'm like, Percy told y'all Ares had dreams. And Poseidon, you're here saying he's stirred, he enters men nightmares. I'm like, how are you not going, oh my God,
like he
almost
gave
started
a
World
God
War dreams. He almost started World War III. He was 2 seconds away from getting the lightning bolt. Like, it just, like, I was like, he's getting into a god's head. This is not like every other time that he's stirred. I'm just like, I was just getting so angry because it's just so frustratingly dismissive. And even when Percy then replies with, that's what he intends, Father, that's what he said, because Percy's like, I've literally been listening in on his conversations.
Yeah, he's like, I heard him.
Yeah, Poseidon's just silent and then goes, Lord Zeus has closed discussion on this matter. He will not allow talk of Kronos. You've completed your quest, child. That is all you need to do. And I'm just like, you are the god of the sea. Like, I think you can stand up to your brother if you actually believe it. But I feel like Poseidon also is trying to bury his head in the sand and ignore it all. And I'm just like,
Yeah, I think it's like what you're saying. Like, this happens time and time again when a hero will be like, this is the truth. And everyone's like, the truth sounds really inconvenient, actually. I have brunch, so I'm going to go do that. And the truth can, like, wait for later if it becomes relevant. And it's like, it definitely has a big effect to just let the bad guy be the bad guy longer. Like, it's going to make him stronger. And it is frustrating. I agree. Yeah. Here's my question. So Pan can fade away completely. So we know that immortal beings can, let's say, die-ish, right? So that the gods are kept alive, as we were discussing earlier, by mortals who kind of believe in whatever their thing is, right? Or believe in them. And so I'm wondering, it seems like Kronos kind of can stir up specific emotions, evil thoughts, restless monsters, like things like that. But I was just thinking, like, what is it that's keeping Kronos from fading specifically? Because I'm thinking with, like, Uranus and Gia and things like some of the original beings, immortal beings, are so tied to, like, Earth, like the planet Earth, because they are the earth or the sky or whatever, that, like, it makes sense to me that they couldn't fade because they just, like, are intrinsically linked with everything that exists. Yeah. But Kronos isn't like that, and that's true for all the other titans and gods and stuff. So anyway, I was just curious, like, obviously everyone still has a sense of time and he controls time, or, you know, is it because we're still linked to some of the things he has dominion over. Just made me curious.
Yeah, my brain went to, like, because the myth of Zeus is alive enough.
And he's tied to that.
And he's tied to it so much. That, like, his memory is still being kept alive. But it is making me want to, when we get to Labyrinth, really pay attention to the wording that Pan uses to specifically say, like, why he fades. Because there are so many, like, we end up meeting so many various gods and goddesses and that, like, would not necessarily be, I don't think, like, in the public consciousness as, like, gods that existed in ancient Greece. But they're still alive. And so I don't know if it's a matter, like, for example, I'm thinking of, like, Nemesis, and, like, how many people, if you're like, hey, name the god of, like, the goddess of revenge, you know, like, how many people... But
how many people have wanted revenge?
Exactly. And so if just by, like, still engaging with, like, God, I really want to get revenge on this person, if, like, that... If people are still engaging...
Yeah.
And then I guess with Pan, like, the appreciation... I don't know. It's interesting because I'm like, there's still, like, you know, I'm like... REI and people like there are plenty of people who,
but I think his point is actually, if I remember correctly, that there are no more wild places. Like, he's not the god of nature, he's the god of wild places. So I think that's the issue. Like, there just isn't any more of what he stands for in existence anymore. That is such an interesting thing to have a god of the wild specifically. I feel like Pan is such a fascinating god. Like, because it almost Rick Riordan agreed with you. Because it feels like having, like, a god of, like the visual unknown. Like, you know that there is a wild that you do not know that's out there. And you're both scared of it and have, like, reverence for it, to be like, I respect there is that's the, which I think makes sense for, like, an ancient Greek setting. Like, there is a time before, like, globalization where there was so much unknown that you would need some deity to have, like, you know, some dominion over that in your brain to kind of organize it and be like, the wild is wild. It has all these things I don't know. Some of the things I do know. Some of the things I imagine I know. And, like, I'm a prey to Pan that nobody eats me, you know, when I go hunting.
It's kind of like making me think of, like, the, I hope this connection is going to make sense as I explain it, but, like, it was making me think of Little Red Riding Hood and how that was used to be like, stay on the path. Like, there's a traveled path that we know that is safe, off the path is unsafe. That if it like, it almost feels like a way of, like, if you are part of a society and a culture that has gods and deities that represent all of the things around you, that, like, you know the path that is safe to walk. Like, you know, like, we go here, we get these berries, that's safe. We hunt here, that's safe. And then
when, like, we have Hermes for travelers, like, we do have, like, other gods that are kind of taking care of you on those paths. Like,
you have a god that represents a path, then you'd also, that you pray to, then you'd also pray to, like, to all that is not on the path, I respect, I bow, you know.
Exactly. Like, I have some reverence for that. No, absolutely. And I think the issue is just that, like, that doesn't, like, I guess, I mean, the question going all the way back to the idea of, like, can Percy walk at the very bottom of the, you know, the ocean and explore all of the unexplored areas? Like, I think the wild places left are the depths.
Well, and I wonder if there's something to, like there is, like, humans have explored so much, and that while, yes, like, we don't know what's truly at the very bottom of the ocean, and my brain always goes to, like, there are pockets of the Amazon that like
there are. It's not like there's no places.
There are some pockets, but I think, like, I could imagine, I don't know if this is gonna make sense, but, like, I feel like I could imagine Pan really taking a hit after humans were able to successfully land on the moon, because I feel like they're like that technological ability to literally go outside of our planet and land somewhere else, I feel like would give this like greater global feeling of like the wild, the unknown. Like we can know what's there. We can explore anywhere.
So does that mean that then there's an intergalactic Pan? Like the unknown becomes the universe, like the rest of space that we haven't explored? Because I like that idea that he just transcended to intergalactic Pan. And I feel like he's kind of like retro trippy vibes as intergalactic Pan.
Because my way, the reason I was saying that was because, like, if we're thinking of, like, the gods are surviving because there is this kind of, like, consciousness that still exists. So whether you feel like you're praying to Nemesis or not, when you're wanting revenge or trying to enact it, that's
you're
stuff
like
bringing it alive. You're invoking it. But, like, you know, like, I'm thinking about, like, even like you're going to national parks, like there are trails, and even if you're going off, like so much is routed and planned that like I don't think there is in the general human consciousness this feeling of like there is a wild that we don't know, then that we cannot know. And if that is really what made Pan disappear, more so than like there are technically large swaths, like count the ocean alone is a huge swath of unknown. And I was just thinking maybe that's just more Poseidon's dominion, you know, but it is. But yes, there could. It maybe isn't that there's like no square foot left, but that the combination of, I agree, like the collective consciousness feeling that there isn't any left, combined with maybe like the technological ability to ensure there's no place left unexplored, like the potential for there to be no place left, even if there are still a handful, combined then with the treatment of nature, because that's definitely a big issue, like the humans pollution and like all those things that Pan that go, they're like antithetical to Pan, and they like seem to hurt him directly when they happen. So yeah, I think that makes sense. I like the idea, like, that sort of the final nail in the coffin is the, because that just kind of feels like,
that's interesting,
you know, and then like we get like, you know, things like Google Maps existing, and you can literally like, especially when it got to the point where you could literally go to the entire globe and you can click into wherever you want, you know, and be like, there's a tiny little island here and there's this here, you know, like totally, it just leaves the feeling of like technology. While we may not live as humans on every square inch of this globe, we kind of know what's going on, even though. Well,
and also like the tale of Pan is from like a couple thousand years ago or something, where the sailors are like, the god Pan is dead or whatever, right?
Because doesn't Odysseus hear it or something like that?
Yeah, I don't remember for sure.
A sailor hears it.
Yeah, somebody hears it, and I guess what I'm trying to say is like, if Pan felt that way that long ago, certainly he felt that way more intensely now. You know, like over time. I wonder if, okay, sorry, last thought, and I know we need to like actually return to the text, but I wonder if like with globalization, but also like the way I'm thinking about how like the heart of the West moved as a part, and that also like a lot of those countries where the heart of the West lives were like countries that then colonized like other parts of the world. If also like that inherently was like destroying Pan, because it's this like, if like how much the heart of the West has moved, and how much of that like conquering and like energy, quote unquote exploring and taking, like how much all of that actually was like constantly destroying. I think partly that has to be true, because the vast majority of that colonization was inextricably linked with the extraction of resources, which hurt the wild places. So, like, not to mention, you know, slaughter and slavery and death and destruction and all the things, but like I think absolutely that you're right, that the West, the way the West has spread was antithetical to like Pan's existence.
And that, I don't know, that's just really like fascinating to think about, like that this concept of the West is this thing that keeps all of the other gods alive, but is the thing that destroyed
that killed Pan.
one of them.
Yeah,
that,
that's really interesting.
Pan. Because, like, you know, thinking about, like, because they would have been in, like, Britain for, you know, like, the British Empire and stuff, and it's like imperialism is completely antithetical. Colonialism is completely antithetical to Pan, but that was keeping all of the other gods alive.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Like there was only a brief period of time where all of the gods and deities could coexist more harmoniously with everyone believing in all of them, but that the spreading actually is part of what created some of them. Yeah, like problems for some of them.
So, is there a Roman counterpart for Pan?
I don't think so. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that, but the Romans were big conquerors. So
right. Yes.
I feel like they, like I was, as you were saying that, was thinking about how Romans were like definitely, not that nobody conquered anybody else in ancient Greece, but that Romans certainly had a much more militarized.
I mean, they had an absolutely massive, the Roman Empire sort of at its height was
a very similar sort of imperialist approach as later colonization. So yeah. Okay,
interesting. Fascinating. So many things
So basically that all sprung from my question of like, what would kill Kronos in terms of like who, what energy or thoughts or, you know, whatever is keeping him alive. So I just still kind of have that question.
Okay. My funny answer to the question, which is a slight shameless plug for my personal social media where I'm doing my funny series of drop up videos, but my PowerPoint, which I'm pretty sure should be posted right now, where I ended up making it a whole TED talk about how time shouldn't exist. That's how, if we as humans abolish the concept of time, I think maybe.
You know, I'd be all for that. Being on time is my least favorite thing. I think I've been on time for one podcast recording so far.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes. So maybe if we all collectively decide to abolish the concept of time, Kronos will not be able to have an evil grasp on the world. That's all we gotta do. It's a simple solution.
Easy.
I'm sure we could get everyone on board with that.
Yeah, no problem.
At least let's abolish daylight savings. That we can.
Oh my God, please.
I would love if that just made Kronos disappear. Right.
Daylight savings is how he's
on the argument. Yeah, it's like that specific technicality. Okay, but yes, man. What we're talking about here is Poseidon being just as burying his head in the sand as Zeus. And also kind of blaming Zeus, like, oh, Zeus closed discussion, so I certainly can't do anything about that. Yeah. And Percy wants to argue, but he stops himself, and he kind of realizes that Poseidon, like, seems to be on his side to a certain extent, and he doesn't want to make him angry. Yeah. And he says, "As you wish, father." And Poseidon smiles and is like, "Obedience does not come naturally to you, does it?" And I wrote, ADHD vibes. I was like, no, it does not.
What it made me think of was like, does Percy have it? Like, is the reason why he's so, like, more so than Annabeth or honestly any of the other demigods, why he's so, like, always bucking up against the gods, is he has ADHD and being the son of the sea god.
I think that's absolutely
true. Because Poseidon says the sea does not like to be restrained. Like, I must take some blame for that, I suppose. So I feel like Percy's got, like, double defiance, like, 100%. In him, because he's a demigod who is the son of the sea god.
That's very true. I think that's very true. And I think it's funny. And I think Poseidon sort of, like, sees that in him and is, you know, talking about the sea. Then he rises back to his full height, takes his trident, and goes to the size of a regular man. And so I think this is a nice moment where, like, he's like, okay, hold on. Like, he saw himself reflected in Percy, and he wants to, like, have a moment with Percy. Yeah. And he's like, let's, for this part where I'm going to talk about your mom, I'm going to be a human height. Yes. It's like a sweet little moment. It's the sweetest thing we've had from him so far. And he says, "You must go, child." Because, you know, we have the Zeus's threat hanging over her head. Right. But first, know that your mother has returned. And this is such a big deal. Yeah. And Percy's completely stunned and says, my mother. And Poseidon says that Percy will find her at home, that Hades sent her when Percy recovered the helm. And he says, even the Lord of Death pays his debts, which I feel like the word even there was not necessary because actually, as we've discussed, Hades is the most upright, saying what he's like, doing what he says he'll do, honest, of everyone. Like true to, honest. Yeah. Like we discussed.
He was the only one who was true to his word. He was the only one
like he believes in
oath.
Honesty.
Yeah.
Like we talked about before. And Percy, this is just like a sweet, sad moment, but his heart is pounding. He can't believe it. He says, do you, would you? And he wants to ask if Poseidon wants to come see her, which is really sweet. I know. But then he imagines like loading the god of the sea into a taxi and taking him to the Upper East Side. And he's like, maybe that's not a thing we would do.
Yeah. Well, and then he has the realization that if Poseidon had wanted to see his mom all these years, he would have, which
is a sad like, realization.
I know. Well, but it also like it made me laugh a little bit because like I feel like online, I don't actually know how recent it is because I'm delayed. I'm semi-online, so I feel like I get things delayed.
Moderately
but
online.
I feel like there's been a lot of like, if he wanted to, he would, in terms of people kind of being like, if your boyfriend wanted to do, do these things, if your husband wanted to do these things for you, he would do them. So like, had the expectation. So I just kind of laughed a little bit of like, if he wanted to, he would.
Like, if he wanted to, he would. If he wanted to, he would.
Which we then, like, in a later book, Poseidon will literally show up at Percy's doorstep. Yeah. So
he wanted to, and he did.
Yes.
So proving it right. Yep. Absolutely.
But I was gonna jump ahead. But Poseidon, his eyes take on a little sadness. I think realizing what Percy's like wanting to ask him, and he doesn't really acknowledge it. And he just says, "When you return home, Percy, you must make an important choice. You will find a package waiting in your room."
Exciting.
And Percy kind of wants some clarification, but he's just like, you'll understand when you see it. No one can choose your path, Percy. You must decide. And Percy's like, okay, I don't really know what you mean, but all right, I'll just roll with it.
Okay.
But whatever. This next part is Poseidon says, he then decides, he's like, all right, I'm going to address it now. And he says, your mother is a queen among women. I had not met such a mortal woman in 1,000 years. Still, I am sorry you were born, child. I've brought you a hero's fate, and a hero's fate is never happy. It is never anything but tragic. But that first part where Poseidon's like, your mother's a queen among women, I'm like, down bad for Sally Jackson, as you should be. You should be. You should never be over Sally Jackson.
Absolutely.
You should still feel that way about her. You should still be like, damn, she's the one who got away.
Absolutely. Well, and like, I don't know. I mean, granted, Poseidon is married to a goddess, and there's things,
he's
but
fully
it's just like
having an affair. Yeah.
But it's like, you like the one you left, not even that got away, like the one that you left, and left a kid with, and like all these things. So I do think, but these just are like really.
For me, I'm like, you, Poseidon, you for the rest of your days, which will be, immeasurable.
Should be heartbroken.
You should be heartbroken over Sally Jackson because she's incredible. And at least you know that. At least you know how amazing she is.
Yes. Again, not necessarily to reiterate, but this podcast is a Sally Jackson stan podcast.
Yes. In case you couldn't tell.
We feel
only slightly strongly about Sally Jackson.
Only slightly. But there are two really, really important sentences that Poseidon says here that are going to stay with Percy, not just for the end of this book, but moving forward. One of them is, no one can choose your path, Percy. You must decide. The other is, I've brought you a hero's fate, and a hero's fate is never happy. It is never anything but tragic. And I think those are already going to be things that influence Percy, honestly, in kind of a positive way, for him to really reflect on like how he wants to be in the world for this book. But they'll also stay with him as things he has to navigate moving forward, which I think is really interesting. But in this moment, he's not thinking of it that way.
No. And I do think, like, they are interesting statements because like they can at first glance feel kind of contradictory, like no one can choose your path, but like I've brought you a hero's fate, and a hero's fate is never happy. But I feel like to me it almost feels like Poseidon saying like, here's the lock, which is a hero's fate, but also here's the key, which is that no one can choose your path. Totally. You can choose your path.
I love that as a metaphor.
And like, if anyone can break away from this like thousands-year pattern of like a hero's fate always being tragic,
cycle breaker, Percy Jackson. It's a cycle breaker
who's also
the ultimate
like
cycle breaker,
the son of the sea god, who is like changeable and malleable and not fixed because the sea isn't fixed. Like, I feel like it really all ties together.
And even at the end, he's like, "I'm not the hero." You know, like I think. Even that is like a breaking of a cycle of like, and he does, I guess what I'm trying to say is I think he does that in a different way here with Sally, with the decision he makes with her. He decides, I'm not the hero. And like, he's going to do that in a bigger way
at the end of the 5th book
from now.
Yes.
But I think that like, it's such a cool thing that like, this is sort of like giving him that food for thought. But I really love that metaphor. I think that's exactly right. Yeah. That's really interesting.
Yeah. And so they kind of like end this conversation where Percy's trying not to feel hurt by what his dad said about like, I'm sorry you were born. And Percy just says, I don't mind, Father, in regards to like, you know, having a hero's fate and that it's never happy. And Poseidon says, not yet, perhaps not yet, but it was an unforgivable mistake on my part, which is just like, hey man, stop digging this grave.
Yeah.
Stop it. Quit. Stop it.
We don't need to be saying this to Percy.
Stop it. Why? Why are you going, hey, I gave you this wound, let me just pour a bucket of salt on that one. Let me triple down.
Squeeze some lemon and
Right. And Percy says, I'll leave you then, and he bows awkwardly and he says, I won't bother you again, which is just
so sad.
Like knife in the heart.
I know.
And when Percy was 5 steps away is when Poseidon calls Perseus, and Percy turns around and sees that there's a different light in Poseidon's eyes, a fiery kind of pride. And Poseidon says, you did well, Perseus. Do not misunderstand me. Whatever else you do, know that you are mine. You are a true son of the sea god.
Yeah.
So like, at least he kind of realized like, oh, I gotta throw this kid a bone.
Maybe that was like insensitive of me to be like, hey, you shouldn't have been born.
Right. Yeah.
Just maybe.
Yeah. Just maybe.
But I mean, it is a nice moment, and I think it at least it gives Percy something to walk away with that I think is better than just like the feeling of rejection.
You were a mistake who shouldn't have been born.
Exactly. Yeah. Like there's a little bit of pride and a little bit of like claiming, because so far he's only claimed him to Zeus. Like when Zeus is like, do you still claim this kid? You know, so I do think that's nice. And I think it's interesting because when Percy goes to Olympus the first time, people are kind of ignoring him or throwing olives at him. But as he leaves through the city of the gods, conversations stop, muses pause their concert, people and satyrs and naiads all turn to him, and their faces are filled with respect and gratitude. They kneel as if, and he goes, as if I were some kind of hero. And I wrote, you are Percy, you are a hero.
It also felt like this was like the second claiming, like somehow everyone knew that Poseidon had just said this. And like, it was like the part 2 of like at camp when the trident appeared above his head and everyone knelt to be like, you are son of Poseidon. Totally. It feels like now they're going like, oh, Poseidon is now even further publicly claiming you and being like,
the other read I had on it was that people had found out that Zeus's bolt had been returned and that Percy had been the one to return it, and that they were like when he goes there, it seems like everyone's not worried about another war, but this kind of makes it seem like underneath that they all did kind of know that something was brewing, and they know that Percy was the one who stopped it. So I think you could read it. I think both could be true. Like I think you can read it both ways. Because the other thing that happens during that interaction is Percy stops World War III, even though like it's the calmest stopping of World War III, which is like a conversation. You know, the worst thing that happens is like some like death threats that we don't really believe.
Yeah.
Which are still bad. But, like, it's a very chill overall way to stop a war.
Yes.
But I think, like, that is another thing that they're respecting him for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. And so we get like a page break, and Percy's now back on the streets of Manhattan, and he catches a taxi back to his mom's apartment, rings the doorbell, and there she was, my beautiful mother, smelling of peppermint and licorice, the weariness and worry evaporating from her face as soon as she saw me. I love you, Sally.
I have to say, this section of the book, I don't think I have, like, genuinely felt emotional or kind of teared up reading this book in maybe, like, a really long time. Because when I was first reading it, I was young, you know, and then since then, it's more of a reread, like you said, that's, like, you know what's happening. But reading it so closely, like, this part made me feel a little emotional, I have to say.
It really hits. It really hits.
It really did. And she says, Percy, oh, thank goodness. Oh, my baby. And I think also, like, the use of the word baby, like, like she, like, he is her baby. Like, when you have a kid, like, they don't stop seeming, like, you don't stop remembering them as little, you know? So I think it's like, it just felt so maternal and sweet. And she crushes the air right out of him. And they just stand in the hallway as she cries and runs her hands through his hair. And he just says, my eyes were a little misty too. I'm like, how are you not sobbing? I would be sobbing. But he was shaking. He was so relieved to see her. And it's just like, oh, we've all just been waiting for this landing moment. You know?
I know. And then, okay, I would like, we're then going to get a bunch of Gabe sucks up the wazoo. I kind of don't really want to, like, review the details of how much Gabe sucks. He's horrible. He says and does horrible things.
See one of our, like, the second or third episode of this podcast for all of our thoughts on Gabe and how terrible and horrific Gabe is. If anything, he's the same or worse in this chapter. And we want to talk about Sally and Percy. We don't want to talk about Gabe. So assume for the rest of this chapter that Gabe sucks and is abusive and terrible.
Yeah. And truly awful, and says and does awful things, and is threatening. I think the first thing in the interactions with Gabe that I do kind of want to touch on is when Sally says no to Gabe, and he gets mad at that, and Gabe raises his hand, and Percy sees that his mom flinches, and he has this realization that Gabe had hit his mom, that he didn't know when or how much, but he's certain that it had happened.
He knows. Yeah.
And he didn't know if it'd been going on for years when Percy's around, like, whatever, but he realizes in that moment that had happened. And it's like, God, it's so hard. Like, it's such a hard thing to read and take in, and to, like, take in from Percy's perspective, this, like, 12-year-old boy who's just reunited with his mom, the person that, you know, for the 10 days of this quest, like, that's kind of just been, like, top of his mind the entire time, and, like, all he's really been wanting, and who he just had to, like, let go in the underworld, like, literally the day before, that morning, whatever, you know, time got wandering in the underworld. Incredibly recently, he just had to see her and choose to not save her in that moment and instead save the world, and they've just been reunited. And then he kind of gets, like, hit with this just crushing realization that, like, Gabe has not just been, like, a
verbally, like, and emotionally
horrible person to be around to him and to his mom, but that it has also gone into physical abuse, and that Percy was not aware that had been happening.
Yeah, that has a really big impact on him, and I think makes his decision here even more meaningful. because it could throw him into a, like, especially given how he's dealt with Krusty, how he's dealt with Ares, how he's dealt with Hades and Zeus, like, he could be in a place where he's just like, I'm gonna go demigod on you, like,
and he
right
wants
here,
to,
right now.
like, he
totally.
literally, like, he thinks about it, and he's like, he literally is like, I'm itching to uncap Riptide, but he realizes that even if he did, like, the blade wouldn't hurt humans, and I do kind of the sentence of, and Gabe, by the loosest definition, was human.
Yes.
I thought was,
but
was
even
funny.
later when he's given the ability to do it,
yes,
like, he's going to make a different decision. I think it just shows a lot of maturity. But I do have to say, like, before we get the interactions, we get told that Sally had just appeared in the apartment that morning. Just like scaring Gabe. Like, she just shows up, which I think is just, like, really funny. Yes. And also that she doesn't remember anything since the Minotaur. Yes. So Sally has no memory of anything during those 10 days. She was not aware that Percy was there in the underworld or that she was in the underworld. Yes. So I think that part is interesting. But yes, I think of all the things, the fact that Percy realizes this has been happening has a really big effect on him. And he does want to do something. Also, Gabe is, like, threatening him to make him leave the house. And so Percy's mom takes him to his room, and Percy is just feeling completely rageful, which is understandable. His room is full of stuff, just like the rest of the house is. And Sally is just, like, still trying. And I think this makes sense. Like, when I was first reading this, I was like, Sally is confusing me because she's speaking like she did at the beginning of the book. Like, she's just trying to make their life still work. And I was just like, but everything is different. But
but it's not,
keeping
for her.
In mind, she has no memory of the last 10 days, so, like, nothing is different for her.
She didn't even get to experience Percy making it safely to Camp Half-Blood, to visually see that, like, he made it there, he entered, he was accepted, he was able to stay there. Like, her last memory and moment of Percy is the Minotaur, like, her being in the Minotaur's clutches and telling Percy to run. Like, her last memory is her child being in danger, and like, and that's it. So,
and not I also like any skills or weapons or experiences that we know he's had that would be like, hey, we can have a new reality now. Like, let's talk about what this should look like. She doesn't have that.
And I think this is such an interesting, like, the moment that they get to have in their room, I think is so interesting because I think it really, like, I think it's a moment for, as the reader, for you to really sit with how much Percy has changed and grown over the course of this book, and how much of a difference, like, that makes, because it does feel like you can feel that Percy's at a completely different place than Sally is, and it makes so much sense. And also, I think it speaks volumes about their relationship, that, like, when after Percy, like, recounts everything, that, like, and it still takes Sally a second to get her moment at the end where she's like, I've decided what I'm going to do. It's still, like, relatively fast in the grand scheme of things, but I think it speaks to their relationship and the fact that, like, I think Sally had for so long been, like, first and foremost is Percy's safety. And I think Sally was able to take in, like, Percy, first of all, has Camp Half-Blood. It's a safe place for him to be, but also he just went on this quest across the entire United States and kept himself safe, has friends who help keep him safe and keep each other safe, that I think it just speaks to how much she trusts Percy, that she was able to take in, like, my child is no longer in the level of danger that I felt that he was in prior to the events of this book, and that while he's still in immense danger, he's capable of handling it. And even though it scares me, like, he's prepared.
Yeah, the difference is that Sally before felt like she was the only one who could protect Percy. And now she understands that Percy can protect himself.
And he has a bunch of other people who can protect him too. Annabeth Grover, Camp, like, all of that.
Absolutely. Because, like, when she's able to, like you're saying, catch up to the reality, that we all know, that Percy can take care of himself, has all these people who can help him. And then she's like, okay, you just can't solve my problems for me.
Yes.
And I'm like, that's right. Sally Jackson is not a 1930s Disney princess. Sally Jackson is a 1990s and 2000s Disney princess.
Yes. Well, and also it's important. I can't remember exactly where in this chapter it's noted, but it is noted that Gabe forced Sally to go to work that like the second she arrived.
Yep.
So she didn't, he withheld information from her. Like she was in the dark even more so, like, and just basically panicked about Percy. Like that she didn't like know anything, even like Gabe's warped version, like she didn't even have. So in terms of totally why she's still like in this panicked, I think, like state is because like she went from Minotaur storm on a hill to like I'm dropped into my apartment and now my abusive husband is forcing me to go to work and I have no clue where my son is he safe, is he not, like I know nothing.
That's like terrifying. But I think like Percy is so much more assertive, right, with his mom, and he's like, that jerk has been hitting you. Do you want him gone or not? You know, and he's just very like, I take action now, and we're gonna do something. Like, I know how to deal with bullies now, even more than before. And you know, Percy's looking. So we haven't said this yet, but a cardboard box appears on the bed. And it is Percy's box of the gods, Mount Olympus,
with Medusa's
floor,
head.
Empire State Building, New York, New York, with best wishes, Percy Jackson, marked return to sender. And so he knows that he could slice the package, plop it on the poker table, and take out what was inside. I could start my very own statue garden right there in the living room. And he even says that's what a Greek hero would do in the stories. And this is where we come back to what I was pointing out with Poseidon. I thought that's what Gabe deserves. But a hero's story always ended in tragedy. Poseidon had told you that. And I think it's a really important moment, even though Percy has decided he has a worldview of like monsters deserve to go, you know, back to Tartarus. He asked himself is if he had the right to send someone to either the fields of Asphodel or the fields of punishment, which he has now seen with his own eyes. Even Gabe, a horrible person, like, does he have the right to make that decision? And he's saying here that a month ago he would have just been like, yes, send him away. But he has this experience now of seeing it himself, and I think it's like the gravity of that decision weighs on him. And I also think the element of like the gravity of that decision and the understanding that like in this moment it is his mom's decision now. Like I think because there's that shift of like he now has Camp Half-Blood, he has like the home in the Greek mythological world that like will serve as like his kind of base in that sense, that like and he knows that he can go and he doesn't have to be around Gabe, doesn't have to deal with Gabe, that like this choice is for his mom now.
Is for his mom like alone to make in this moment. And I like that she realizes that too, like even like you already read kind of earlier on this page 351 where she tells him, you can't solve my problem, like you can't do this for me, you can't solve my problems, when he at the end of this page, when he has that realization of like the weight of what it would mean to do this, he tells her, I can do it, Mom, when look inside of this box and he'll never bother you again. And she immediately understands then what's in the box and says,
which is very impressive.
She's so smart. She's so smart.
The best.
And Percy kind of like, you know, he's like, Poseidon called you a queen, like you deserve better than this, and he lists like all these things that she could do, which I love that she does actually do. Like you should go to college, get your degree, write your novel, meet a nice guy, maybe live in a nice house. I'm like, you will get all these things.
All of these things will happen.
All of these will happen.
I know. I was getting so excited.
I know. But I love that she has this moment where she says that Percy sounds so much like his father, and we find out that Poseidon had offered to stop the tide for her once. He offered to build her a palace at the bottom of the sea. He thought he could solve all her problems with the wave of his hand. And I like that in this moment of the conversation, Sally's really like reiterating this point that it's hers to deal with, and she even says, if my life is going to mean anything, I have to live it myself. I can't let a god take care of me or my son. I have to find the courage on my own. Your quest has reminded me of that. And I also, back to the kind of family dynamics element of it all, I really love that in this moment, from like a parent-child perspective, that she doesn't let Percy do it, that Agreed. It is like, she's like, I am the parent, this is mine to solve, this is mine to figure out, this is not for you to solve. Because I do think with a different parent-child dynamic, being like, yes, do this, take care of it, would immediately switch and be like, now the child is more like the parent, like taking care.
Kind of like we were talking about, part of why I think we appreciate Sally so much as a parent at the beginning of the book is there's these moments where there's a really fine line, because they're both experiencing an abusive relationship where it could, like, Percy could get parentified, and he never does because Sally never lets him. And I think that's like so key here is like she's now caught up to the situation. Percy's almost like, why is it bad? Like yes, I get in theory that you should do so, but like but what's so bad about stopping the tide and building you a palace? And like he obviously in his mind is like, my dad, like, we don't get that moment, but I'm sure he's like, oh my gosh, like it's kind of like I don't know, like a Parent Trap or like some kind of situation where like you hear each parent say something sweet about the other, like he's kind of in that place, kind of like the idea of like Percy Jackson, the Parent Trap, style. but I think like in this moment she is really sticking true to who she is and how she parents, like we talked about at the beginning of the book, and making sure that he doesn't fall into that parentified role. And that's like amazing, especially considering like the pressure that she's under and that they're both under with Gabe.
Yeah. And the way that they leave off this moment in his bedroom is Percy saying basically like, all right, I'll leave the box. Yeah. And basically with the reminder of like, if he threatens you, you have a
weapon. Yes.
And she looks pale, but she nods, and then she asks Percy where he'll go, and he says Half-Blood Hill, and she asks for the summer or forever. And he just replies with, I guess that depends. And I think that's a really, like, I appreciate how, like, honest and vulnerable, and how, like, she doesn't get upset. Like, you can tell that she's, like, it's a lot for her in this moment. But the fact that, like, she is able to love her child enough and well enough and, like, safely and securely enough to be, like, I understand. Like, you can go to Half-Blood Hill. Yep. That's the right thing for you. That's what you need to do. And like, I'm not going, like, she doesn't like guilt him or trying to like get him to stay or anything. She's just like,
and she also doesn't like go take the head over. Like, she doesn't take the decision to use Medusa's head lightly. Like, she doesn't just, she could just be like, I'll go take it. It has to be
then
me,
like,
but
okay, I'll go do it right now so that
I'll
you don't go back to
so you
Half-Blood
stay
Hill.
with me. Yeah, exactly. And it's like she knows that whether it's for a summer or a whole year, like Percy belongs there. Like he will always belong there as a demigod. It will always be important for him to be there in some way, shape, or form. I mean, that's the mark of like a secure attachment, is that you can let someone go. Yeah.
And they kind of have this moment of agreement that they would just see how things stood at the end of the summer. And the other thing that this really made me think about was like how like kids who are experiencing, or like anyone for that matter who's experiencing abuse from a partner, a parent, or what have you, like what if you have a place that is safe to go even for a moment, for a little bit of respite, like how much of a difference that can make. And that like I really feel like not only did the whole quest instill a confidence and like a sense of like I like a sense of Percy's own ability in himself.
Yes.
I also think like really finally like though he had his ups and downs at camp, like him knowing that it is this other home that he always has, that he can always return to, like I really think was so crucial for him and for Sally, like in this moment, in this conversation, that like both of them kind of know like Percy's got his place, like he will be okay, and Sally can like go on her own quest, get her own courage, like figure it out on her own.
She
like,
has
path
to finish
and
her own
journey.
hero's arc.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah. She needs to like reclaim her own power and like feel her own agency again, and feel her own sense of like, this is what I'm capable of, this is what I deserve in life.
Especially if we want to get nerdy about the nervous system, because she was in the middle of a very high stakes, adrenaline filled interaction when she got like taken into the underworld without her memories. So she needs to complete her stress response cycle. By making some statues, hopefully. But I would do want to say, as much as we've gotten on Chiron's case throughout this book for like how his assumptions colored everything and like made it harder to figure out the truth, I do think that it's really important, as you're talking about Camp Half-Blood being the safe place in this home for so many demigods, like the importance of Camp Half-Blood and Chiron as a really great tutor and mentor also can't be understated. Like, that is key to these kids, like physical survival, literal survival, but also like their emotional well-being and their sense of community and their ability to navigate this duality they exist in of, you know, being mortal in a way, being godly in a way, and like how that is challenging for them in this world. So I think it's worth saying.
No, that is such a great point. Because Chiron is such the key element of what makes Camp Half-Blood a safe place. Yes. Like emotionally, you know.
Yes, and like prepares heroes to go into the world. Yeah. And face whatever they need to face, you know. Yeah. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do think that matters. And Percy takes a last look around his bedroom, feeling he won't see it again, which is interesting. We know he will, but I think it makes sense. Like, they're really at a crossroads here, and it's Sally's next move to make. Yeah. And he has one last twinge of doubt about Gabe, but he says, "How could I turn down the perfect chance to take revenge on him? I was leaving here without saving my mother."
Again, I just want to note that it's like that line in the prophecy of like, you will fail to save what matters most in the end. It's like, it first met his mother that first time, but this is the second time where he again has to choose to like he like, to your larger point of like his all the like him choosing not to be the hero, but again he has to choose to like let his mother go. And in this instance, it's choosing to trust in her and trust that like
to let her save herself.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah, but that's such a good point. And he looks back and sees a steely look of anger flare in his mother's eyes. He says, "I thought just maybe I was leaving her in good hands after all, her own." And I'm telling you, like, as I'm saying that, like, when I was reading it, that was another point that made me kind of misty. And I'm just like, I don't know, I just really...
It's so powerful.
It's so powerful, and it doesn't feel like, again, because he hasn't been parentified, it just feels like there's such a respect between the two of them. Yes. And, like, that's just so beautiful to see here in writing. And, I just think it, like, positions both of them as individuals and their relationship so perfectly at the end of this book, and, like, to set up all of the future things that are going to happen. And she even winks at Percy, which I think is, it's sweet, right? And it flips the power dynamic on its head for the first time in the books in a way that feels really meaningful.
Yeah, and I think it's like, every time we like talk about Gabe or any character who, you know, it like in this book has like treated people horribly, like I always like to state the caveat of like, me going off on them does not mean that I think the character should never have been written or exist in the first place. I actually think it's incredibly important to have characters like this in, like, because like that is representative of real experiences that kids and people have, and it is important to show them and to depict them, not only for, you know, people to feel like, oh my gosh, I can relate to like this experience, but also you can like learn things and like learn from the characters, and like you can learn from Percy like how to stand up to like abuse and like people in power,
and
who,
like how a healthy parent-child dynamic does look, because it's like an interesting thing here where like the nuance is that within an unhealthy abusive dynamic there is a healthy dynamic, so it's like a really interesting seeming contradiction, but you could teach us so much just reading that.
Yes, absolutely. And like I think this moment of that moment of Percy saying that he was leaving her in good hands after all her own, I think is just like, I think it's so powerful for like remembering like it is incredibly hard to be the person like in an abusive partnership to leave. Like it is so hard to leave. It is so hard to get out. Like it takes multiple tries like for that to happen. And I love this messaging of like the best hands were her own, and that like she was going to find the courage, she with the support of her son, knowing like, you know, like not on an island on her own, but just that she is equipped, that she can do it, this belief that she's able to, I think is just really powerful, because like, you know, like whether you're an adult reading it, you know, or you're a kid reading it, thinking about maybe like your parent who like had to do that and had to have the bravery and the courage to do that. Like I just think it's really, really powerful for that reminder of like, those abusive dynamics can make you feel like you aren't capable, you aren't able, but you haven't actually ever, you haven't fully lost that. It is still there. And like with the support and the resources and everything, like you can like take those steps. Anyway, I love that so much in this book. I think it's really beautiful and wonderful.
It is really beautiful. No, I agree. And I just like that she has this sort of twinkle in her eye as she's, you know, like we feel like her own hands are also good hands to be in. And I have to say, like, I desperately wanted the conclusion to this to be in this chapter and to not have to wait for next week. But as we're talking about it as like her own arc, I do think that there's something to be said for like she's such a presence in this story, even though she's only in a handful of chapters. Yeah. And I think there's something to be said for her getting her own sort of suspense chapter ending of like, what's she going to do?
Right.
You know, it kind of makes it even more heroic.
Yeah, because we leave the last sentence of this chapter is, the last thing I saw as the door swung closed was my mother staring at Gabe as if she were contemplating how he would look as a garden statue. So we're left off with like, we know what she's decided. We know what she's about to do.
We're in that direction.
Look, hey, like I think I said when we first started talking about this, like it's ultimate revenge fantasy. Nemesis is thrilled. Nemesis
I was just thinking that actually.
She got a good boost.
Nemesis is well and good.
That day.
Yeah.
But it's like it really is like, it's the best revenge fantasy.
For sure.
To read, like it's just satisfying,
and it is so much more satisfying that Sally's doing it herself than you know, than it would be if Percy was doing it. Ooh, that was a big, long chapter of so many things. We're back to like a 3-part chapter again, and it kind of makes sense, right? Because we're nearing our final chapter.
I know.
Next week. I can't believe it.
Me neither.
I think that we not only talked about themes in this chapter, but we found a line in this chapter that is the theme of the book.
Yes.
Which is quite exciting. So, any final thoughts before we wrap our second to last chapter of the book?
I think I said all my thoughts. I think. Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts?
I have nary a thought left in this head of mine. I think I'm excited to follow up on some of the things that we discussed, particularly some playlists we're going to go make now.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think we have some really good fodder for some other ideas, like the family dynamics and things that we've been wanting to work on. I am just like have so much anticipation for next week. It's very
we're
exciting.
At the final chapter. I can't believe we're there. We've arrived.
I know. And reading it this closely, I'm so emotionally invested that I understand the writing perspective, but I also am so frustrated that we didn't actually get the conclusion to Sally's arc. So
yes,
I'm so excited for that. I'm so excited for some final puzzle pieces to be revealed, because we still have one big reveal that we don't know yet.
Which I think this might be in the running. This final chapter title, I think, is in the running for one of the best chapter titles in terms of reveal, but it's hidden, but it's there. If you know, you know. Like, if you've been paying attention, you know what it means.
In the category of funniest Percy Jackson chapter titles. No. But it certainly is a meaningful one.
It's potent. And so, it's powerful.
Therefore, we will see you next time for the final chapter of The Lightning Thief. Woo. Chapter 22. The Prophecy Comes True. See you then. Bye.
Bye.